Hello! This is a sequel to the Returnable Crown replay. I recommend watching that replay first, as it will help everything make more sense. This game was played as play-by-post, meaning it was done in text. I apologize for the text-to-speech used here, but some players are not native English speakers and prefer this version for their character voices. When planning this game as the GM, I designed it to reach high levels and face impossible odds. To spice up the roleplay, I added a provocative NPC to the party. Everyone had fun throughout this game, and I hope you'll enjoy it too. Welcome back! 2 years have passed since the Returnable Crown incident. It has been 17 months since a lone female adventurer returned a fake crown. Unfortunately, the elves, dwelling in their forest kingdom, are unable to offer any assistance. However, the dwarves have shown their willingness to help. After conducting extensive research, they have confirmed what you feared all along. Lave is now ruling over Castillo, and the city is plagued with mysterious disappearances. During your recent explorations of ancient Magitech ruins, a remarkable discovery was made. You stumbled upon the precise coordinates of a hidden Magitech ruin near Castillo, believed to be the location of the mythical Dragon Fortress. The Dragon Fortress itself is a colossal Magitech dragon, measuring an impressive 50 meters in length. It is this very dragon that holds the power to dethrone Lave and restore peace to the land. Now, in the midst of summer, the month of July, you find yourself standing at the entrance of a massive cave in a few days from Castillo. This cave is believed to lead you deep into the heart of the Magitech underground laboratory. However, there is a formidable obstacle. It is the lair of the fearsome dragon. As you cautiously look around the cave, you notice the scattered remains of previous adventurers who dared to challenge the dragon. The entrance of the cave spans about 20 meters in width. Your best chance of success lies in finding the perfect moment when the dragon is fast asleep. Please provide a description of what your characters have been doing over the past 2 years, and feel free to plan your next moves. Keep in mind that the dragon is a lesser dragon, which you already know.
Rosemi has been traveling around the world of Raxia for the past 2 years, meeting all sorts of people and making new friends. She eventually decided to meet some of her old friends to catch up with them, thus leading Rosemi here. However, she has decided to disguise herself, covering herself with a long hooded cloak that provides her privacy. If one were to look under the cloak, it wasn't Rosemi that they'd find. It would be the face of someone else. However, around this new mysterious girl, you smell a very familiar scent of a certain rose. But that alone shouldn't be an indicator that it's Rosemi. After all, rose-scented perfumes exist. Not Rosemi is found riding her bike in a fancy way, with both of her legs at the side, sitting like a princess. She doesn't appear to be holding her bike to steer it too, it just somehow steers itself. Not Rosemi can be seen holding a large magisphere with her hands, and she seems to be talking to it. Her voice would be quite familiar too, it's the Rosemi you know, but the mannerisms are different. She sounds like a mature princess. And here we arrive at the entrance of an infamous unnamed dragon. From now on, we shall call this dragon Seelan, and I shall make an attempt to tame this dragon down. Oh ho ho! She says whilst talking to the large magisphere. And here are my newfound friends, Himbo, Froggy, and Thorny. She says as she makes the large magisphere face the group. And then we have me, the one and only well, you guys already know me. She says, continuing to talk to the magisphere. For the purpose of introduction, she formerly introduced herself as Victoria Brightshield.
Just asking, but what time is it in-game?
8 p.m.
I see. Following one of his friend's priestly advice, Elio continued his travel through the Terrestrial continent, preaching the word of Tidon wherever he went, only coming back home to report back to the temple and to continue his training on the Dalbon combat style. During his travels to the north of the continent, he found a school based on dual wielding and a reckless style of combat. Something perfect for someone like him who has a risk-reward mentality. But even if he continued his travels without much care, he was always thinking about what would happen to that southern kingdom, knowing that such a fearsome monster was ruling over it. So the moment this quest was set up, he knew that it was going to be a do-or-die kind of mission, and he was ready for it. Seelan? That's actually a nice name for a dragon, though I'm not sure how you plan to tame it, but I'm sure it will drop something nice if it goes down at the end. Elio tells the mysterious character that's totally not Rosemi.
It will be straightforward. I shall negotiate with the dragon and challenge it to a duel. She says with clear confidence in her voice, but at the same time, it doesn't sound so complacent or egoistic. After all, Seelan is just a young dragon. She has a lot to live for. We'll explore the world together. She declares.
I'll say, Missy, your frankly illogical optimism reminds me of someone. Vito speaks up as he hands a knob of cheese to his gate imp, who's currently outside of her seal.
What sort of self-respecting dragon would take that challenge?
The imp says in between bites.
If I were her, I'd rather die over subjugating myself to a mortal.
She nods standoffishly. The alchemist only sighs. Speaking of Vito, he was unclear on what he's been up to. When asked, he'd only give cryptic replies about studying. The only clear answer he gave was that he visited his home kingdom of La Lumea in the Dagny region to catch up with his family and claims to be traveling once again to look for a wife. Whether that was a joke or his actual reasons for being here, he never specified. According to rumors, though, the wandering exorcist has been seen mostly in the Eularia region for the past couple of years, and he was even seen studying herbalism, of all things. What are rumors? What are false and what are half-truths? Vito's keeping quiet. Maybe he thinks being mysterious makes him look cooler to the ladies. Only he and his demons know.
Her bike hovers towards Vito's direction, and she crosses her legs then stares down at Vito, not in a challenging way, though. If you are a child and you have a long life ahead of you, would you choose to die now or live under certain conditions? What would you pick? She asks in such a gentle voice. The world is full of wonders. So are you telling me that you'd choose death over the chance of being able to see more of the world? She asks as she hovers her skybike in a rotation as if to look at her surroundings, except everyone can't see spit aside from what little area the flashlight lightens up. Spare her life from this monstrosity, easy come, easy go. Will you let her go? She asks, meaning to free the dragon from its infamous reputation of repeatedly killing adventurers.
The alchemist shuts his gate imp by covering her whole head with his palm. Hey, don't be treating what this pipsqueak says as my words, he says before putting his other hand under his chin. But that is a good question. He hums for a moment, thinking. See? He starts slowly. I can't answer the question about being a kid because I frankly ain't one anymore. But if I were to make the decision for a kid, then it'd depend on said conditions. My pa always said that no two crops grow the same way. Sometimes one grows diseased. You'd want to save that little crop. But there's no such thing as a farmer with a perfect harvest. He grows a little somber at that. So, you think this little wheat field can be salvaged then? He asked the artificer.
Indubitably. It's all about treating someone right, treating someone like a monster, and then they will act like a monster. The cycle has to stop. She declares with a determined look on her face.
I mean, the dragon still can kill us, right? Is it not like it's out of options yet? And I would prefer if it doesn't try to.
I plan to challenge her on a duel, not a fight to the death. She replies, I'm sure dragons just have the right amount of pride and honor for such agreement. We don't kill Seelan. Seelan doesn't kill us.
Sounds fair, I guess. I just hope we don't end up like them, he says as he points to the scattered remains on the cave.
Nuela was quite shocked to learn that the voice that had guided and whispered to her all these years was not Titan, as she believed, but rather his wife, Scene. In retrospect, it made perfect sense, and Nuela felt foolish for not realizing it in the first place. She spent the last several years traveling to various temples, learning the ways of her goddess. She sacrificed her skills with the spirits on the altar of her goddess to learn the ways of the priesthood. Nuala looks different from how she originally looked. Now she wears glistening mithril mail with an ornate long dagger/short sword. In the place of the shy, timid girl is a confident woman who moves with an almost unearthly, sensual grace. "Hello, friends," she says with a smile. "I have missed you all. How about we don't wake up the dragon if we can avoid it?"
As you all gather around, you notice a young girl dressed in the attire of a wizard. She is wandering through the hills, her gaze fixed on the cave. She is approximately 50 meters away from your position. Completely oblivious to your presence, she adjusts her glasses and exclaims with enthusiasm.
Oh my. This is the moment you've been waiting for, Dragon Slayer Blair. Sounds nice?
Who is that? Another challenger for the dragon. Maybe she wants a new mount as well. He says as he is puzzled by the approaching character.
You can roll insight check.
Okay, 4.
She is a girl.
11 for insight.
You remember Blair with a similar description. She was the one lone adventurer who delivered the crown. She is supposedly a high-level sorcerer.
There will be no dragon slaying here, young woman. I am Victoria Brightshield, and who may you be? She asks the imposing third party as she shines her flashlight right at her face.
Hello. I'm Blair Song, a humble adventurer from Castillo. I, came here to, defeat the mighty dragon.
Defeat, yes? Not slay? Defeat does not imply the death of the other participant. As simple as that, but...
Is there a difference? Did I use this word in the wrong context?
Defeat does not imply the death of the other participant. As simple as that, but... She then gets off her bike and begins to adjust her gloves. If you mean to slay Seelan, the dragon, then you will have to go through me.
Excuse me, but are you, dragon's minions? She readies her staff.
Don't mind her. She wants to defeat the dragon to tame it and use it as a mount. He explains before any fight could happen.
No, the other way around. She's going to be my minion. She declares as she walks closer to Blair without any weapons in sight.
I'm not into women, she blushes shyly.
And no, you're not going to stop this. She says before suddenly pulling a fist. Boulder, shears, parchment, well what? Who said anything about that?
You came so suddenly.
That's the first thing you think of. She asks, clearly flustered and at the same time has a puzzled look on her face.
Why are you looking to pick a fight with a dragon anyway? Did you take a quest to slay it or something?
Sorry, she bows. I think defeating the dragon in such a way will also bring glory to my name. I did take a request for its defeat. Actually, 10 of them from all the nearby villages. She shows about a dozen of papers in her baggage.
That's fair, I guess? Wait, is it possible to take the same quest more than once? Isn't there any rule on the guild to stop this?
Her eyes go wide and she panics.
I take that as a no.
She squints her eyes to look at the paperwork to see if it really means to slay the dragon, but regardless, she suddenly shows her hand, forming a scissor with it. Shears beats parchment. You lose. By the laws of the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale, you shall now stand down. She declares as she makes up complete total nonsense.
Are you even sure you can defeat this thing alone?
I believe there are no such laws in all books of the kingdom.
By the way, did the paperwork actually just say defeat and not slay?
Half say defeat, half slay, one says subjugate.
Why would they want it alive? It's probably a typo, though the subjugate does sound like a proper merciful taming quest.
It doesn't matter. They had to be specific. It's not our fault they weren't specific.
I think I can try to defeat it at least, Soleil.
I don't think trying cuts it against a dragon, like, it's a do or die kind of thing, isn't it?
suddenly pulls out a piece of paper and begins scribbling on it. She walks back to Blair and shows her what she has scribbled. A request to defeat the infamous dragon, Seelan. It looks like a kid drew it. Here, with this, we have the majority. Happy?
She looks at the papers and laughs. That's a funny, nice joke. It is a joke, right?
Just stares down at her with a completely serious look on her face. She is determined.
Blair also becomes serious. Okay. Defeat it is. By the way, sorry for the question, but is anyone here married or in a relationship?
She stands down as they come to an agreement, takes her gloves off, and holds out a hand to Blair, offering it for a handshake. That is such a weird thing to ask, she thinks to herself.
Anyway, we just want to get further into the cave. The dragon is just stopping us from doing it, so I don't really care if you slay it, tame it, cook it, or whatever. He then looks back to his other companions. What do you guys think we should do?
Elio, who is this new girl? Nuela asks, indicating Natrozami.
Dunno? I thought she was with you? Like she does act familiar.
Nuela shakes her head. Hi, Blair, is it? You aren't the high-ranked sorceress Blair, are you? Nuela steps forward, a smile on her lips and her hands empty and non-threatening.
It's me. Pleased to meet you, she bows.
Nuela gives a bow in return. This is the great Blair song, everyone. Sorceress of great repute. Also, she returned the stolen crown that team of adventurers died trying to retrieve. Quite the hero. She turns to Elio and gives him an arched eyebrow. Turning back to the sorceress, she steps forward. I am not currently in a relationship, no. That is an odd and, well, personal question to ask strangers, don't you think? Are you?
I'm in active search. Just a lonely girl trying to find a husband.
Just saying, but I don't think you will find any husband in that cave.
Maybe he is just nearby, ready to help a girl to kill a dragon. She smiles at Elio.
Anyway, I have heard of your heroism before. You got back the lost crown of the Castillo Kingdom, right? That's an impressive feat on its own, so why kill a dragon? Wouldn't you already be well recognized at this point?
She blushes and looks away.
She frowns as she notices Blair giving Elio that look, but she quickly shakes it off.
Just sighs once things have settled down now. She takes a step back and begins to wipe her face with her hand. Can't believe she thought I was hitting on her. She comments to herself, still baffled as to how Blair came to that conclusion. Did I look like a lesbian? She asks, continuing to talk to herself. She then held her cheeks, completely embarrassed just by the thought of being one.
That aside, who are you exactly? He asks the unknown woman. I didn't catch your name, and I thought you were a friend of one of my companions here, but it seems it isn't the case.
Pretends to look disappointed, and she takes her large magisphere and makes it face her. Can't you bud guys believe this? They don't recognize me, the one and only Victoria Brightshield. She then takes her hood off, finally revealing herself. Her long silver hair flutters into the air, and you guys can't help but smell a really familiar scent of a rose coming from her hair.
Getting the same vibes from this artificer as their old companion, with a tired expression, he replies, Go on with the dragon then. I will make sure to bless your ashes.
During the whole conversation, Vito was silent, staring at Blair as his gate imp was kicking his head.
Oi, what's up with you?
The imp asks her boss. I get it now. Suddenly nodding, he grabs Nuela and Elio by the shoulders and drags them away a bit. Not Victoria, though. She's still a stranger to him. So, this is awkward, but we've known each other for about half a decade now, right? He asked the two, whispering so the other half of their sudden spontaneous group doesn't hear.
Yes? Why do you ask? He replies to Vito quietly.
Well, you see, just a couple of months ago, I went home to La Lumea to check on Ma and Pa and all 12 of my siblings. He occasionally says, glancing at the sorcerer and artificer's direction to make sure they're listening. And you know what I saw? I've been gone for years and things have changed. My eldest sister got hitched and has a 2-year-old. 5 of my siblings have girlfriends or boyfriends. All my old buddies from childhood are either dating each other or married. Heck, even that old spinster that gave me free candy found some old adventurer guy from Eastsky or whatever. The imp's eyes widen in happiness at what Vito is getting to.
Oh, so this is the apex of your own little marriage, Kir.
Vito covers the imp's whole head with a hand, yet again with an embarrassed blush. Point is, after confessing to my crush back home and finding out she was into women the whole time, I need to find a girl elsewhere. And I've spent a quarter of my life studying and killing monsters instead of dating. So, how do I do this thing?
She attempts to roll her large Magisphere closer in an attempt to record the whole thing so she can check back on it eventually.
He gives a really long sigh and thinks about the whole situation. There is an annoying one. This guy is desperate for a date and Nuela is just as usual. Then looks at the other desperate mage next to the new artificer. And now there is a second, he says and then pauses for a moment. I miss home.
The moment Elio turned to look at her and Blair, she was caught red-handed trying to sneak her Magisphere closer. She immediately stands straight and faces away as she begins to whistle, hoping that they don't catch on to what she is doing with the Magisphere.
Okay, Elio says as he talks with both girls. Whatever you two choose to do with the dragon, we will help. We have business at that cave beyond that thing, so you two decide on how to proceed and we will follow, okay? Then he goes back to Vito and whispers to him, whatever it's chosen, you better give a good first impression. You hear me? And pats him on the back.
Salutes Elio, confirming that she agrees with the suggestion. She then turns around to Blair. So, what was that thing about being into girls and asking if we're in relationships?
I'm not into girls, ma'am. Also, Soleil Elio, human from La Lumea, shy nightmare. The only one missing is... Blair squints, looking at Victoria.
Rosemi, roll spellcasting check for disguise set.
24!
23.
Turning back to Blair, her smile firmly back in place, Nuela says, not so shy anymore. She gives the woman a wink. Looking over the group, she says, there are 3 beautiful women here, including yourself. Maybe don't be so quick to dismiss possibilities. Is there a particular reason you were searching for a husband? And how did you get the crown? I would love to hear that story.
Well, I might rethink my priorities. Anyway, I, found the crown in the barbarous camp. It seems that they had already, killed the thief and the adventurers who were sent to catch him. It, wasn't too difficult. Oh, and I had to take care of a Fomor general.
She shifts herself towards Nuela and discreetly whispers to her while glancing towards Blair's direction. She dodged the question.
That's quite an amazing feat, he says with a smile, holding back from thinking about the poor kobolds. Also considering how important that thing was. I'm sure the king received that directly from you, right?
No, I delivered it to the main Adventurers Guild office. They delivered it to the castle. The King of Castillo, a wise and just ruler, got the crown, as I've been told by the guild.
I see. It's understandable, considering he has his king duties to do over just looking for a lost crown, he said, disappointed about not getting any new info on the king. Anyway, I think you two should focus on deciding what to do with that sleeping beast. But if I may, I think successfully taming a dragon would be as impressive as some dragon slaying. He pauses for a bit, and if worse happens, we can just put it down.
Nuela grins like a Cheshire cat. What a fascinating story, Blair. Thank you for sharing. She turns to the others. Anyway, do we even have to face the dragon? What we want lurks behind its lair, allegedly, so if we can simply sneak past it and take what we are after, we don't have to risk anyone in battle against such a deadly foe. Her gaze lingers on the bones that surround the cave entrance.
I think it's better if the dragon is not here anymore by the time we get out. He replies, also, these two seem interested in it. and I think it would be wrong to leave them on their own.
I thought you were after the dragon too. What are you after?
We were told about some ruins that are connected to this cave, so we came to explore them, but the dragon is kind of making it hard to do so. Elio says, keeping any info about the crown out of the topic.
Ruins. Exciting. Can you tell me more? I can help.
I at least don't mind. The more people, the better. But I'd rather wait for my partners here to decide.
Vito hops in excitedly at Blair's offer. Oh, that'll be great. You're a sorcerer, right? You're welcome to join us. He offers a hand to her with little thought. His gate imp can only shake her head at her boss's antics. Name's, Vito Gresti. Vito Gresti.
Blair's song. Very pleased to meet you, Vito, she says, sauntering towards Vito with a smile.
Nuela nods discreetly to Natrosimi while still smiling at the other stranger. Well, it's really about exploration for us. New discoveries and all that. I don't want to tangle with a dragon if it can be avoided. I'm also a bit uncertain about new acquaintances. I know you, she says, nodding towards Blair, by reputation. But I am afraid I don't know you. She turns to look at Victoria. What are you capable of, exactly?
Behold at me. I'm so durable, Victoria Sama. I am. I'm a genius, and thou amst good at whooping thy buttocks. She says to Nuela, speaking in an informal, noble-ish way.
Elio gets close to Nuela and whispers, I think she may be someone we know, or at least I just hope not all riders act like that, and then turns back to Victoria. Nice to meet you, Lady Brightshield. I take you will insist on trying to tame the dragon, right?
Ist thou insists.
I see. Well, as my companions and I are only interested in what's beyond the dragon, I suggest you let us go first and sneak past before you do your taming attempt, as it wouldn't be good for us to be there when it wakes up.
You can roll detect check to confirm who Natrosimi is. Target number is 25.
14. Automatic failure. Damn you low intelligence. Damn you RNG. 050 EXP. First fail in a while. Maybe she isn't her after all. Why are riders so weird? Elio thought to himself.
Oh, Elio. Can't we at least watch her try? It's a stupid plan. But it's a plan I want to watch happen. And besides, if things go south, Miss Brightshield could use someone there to make sure she ain't hurt. He turns to Blair. And I guess you would want to see the dragon too, right, miss?
Oh yeah, it would be enlightening to fight against Lesser Dragon. Blair corrects her glasses.
He looks at Nuela with a worried look, then looks back to the others, gives a sigh and says, Very well, let's try that. But if at any point the dragon becomes hostile, then we put it down for good, and no objections are allowed.
If it continues to persist violence after its defeat, then I, Victoria Brightshield, shall deliver the fatal blow. The burden of killing a youngling shall not fall on anyone's shoulders. She says while looking valorous.
Good. Then let's go. It's time to wake it up. Elio says as he goes in the direction of the cave.
Roll notice checks.
9. She wears her gloves again before proceeding to ride her skybike, once again sitting in a fancy fashion with both her legs at the sides and her legs crossed.
14. Anyone with a good ranger, scout, and high intelligence, please check.
If you want to use some exploring spells, feel free to do so, or defense buffing spells if you are preparing to attack.
I can have +2, but only for myself, but I don't think it would help. I know. She casts Life Sensor with her large Magisphere using mana from her Mako Stone.
Spellcasting check.
23.
There is a 4-section creature about 10 meters in size just at the mouth of the cave, but strangely, it's just an empty space where it should be. It's 50 meters from you currently.
Victoria suddenly stops in her tracks and raises her hand with a fist in the air, signaling everyone to stop moving. It's there. How long is the cave exactly?
You can see it's 50 meters long, at least, and then it just fades into darkness. You sense a presence only at the entrance, though.
Hey, random question, but can you remote control your bike? He asks Victoria.
No, but I can make it seem like I do. Victoria replies as she turns back and starts driving away. Follow me.
Very well. I see you are prepared for this then.
Please be good. Screw you too, Pally. 7 double ones.
16 for notice. Foo. Nuela takes Elio and Vito by the arms as Victoria rides away. Whispering, she says, I don't trust these new people. Nor am I super thrilled about waking up the dragon.
Vito blinks at Nuala. Sure, they both might seem a bit ditzy, but they seem like nice folk. He says.
Especially that Blair girl.
His gate imp responds teasingly. You're out for too long. The warlock pulls out a feathered necklace from under his pocket, and the imp was sucked in, still giggling.
I know you are worried, and with really good reasons at that. But at this point, I'm not sure what else to do. Like if we 3 go carefully, then we would pass by the beast without waking it up surely. Elio says to Nuela and pauses for a bit before continuing. But we would leave those 2 poor misguided souls to their death. And as a priest, I don't think it's the right thing to do, even less after seeing how many quests there are for this thing to be vanquished.
Also, just a note, Rosemi also should be here. Maybe something happened to her, as you are all supposed to have come here.
Are you coming or not? Victoria beckons as she cooks up a plan.
Yeah, I like plans very much.
At the mention of leaving people to doom themselves, Nuela sighs. You are right, Elio. As wise as you are hot. She disentangles herself from the pair.
Thank you, he replies to Nuela and looks at Vito. Look at that. She thinks I'm wise.
I have no doubts that wise and hot Elio has a truly wonderful wife. What is her name?
You think Nuela drank too much ale this afternoon? He asks Elio genuinely before looking at Blair in surprise. Wait, since when did you have a wife?
So, she calls out to the pair of strangers. Do you have a plan?
So, we will record ourselves using this Magisphere here. Since we can't control the image in real time, we will have to act assuming the dragon's response. Nothing hostile, so it doesn't go on a frenzy. I shall walk up to the dragon and call it out, challenge it in a duel set by our own terms, that we will not kill the dragon and not touch its hoard upon its defeat in exchange for it letting us pass through and not killing more adventurers it comes across with. At least that would be my script.
That sounds totally wonderful. What a clever plan, Miss Victoria.
Indeed, let's go with that plan, he replied, totally ignoring the previous question.
Dodging the question. Carrying on, he thinks about Victoria's plan. About that plan, though. Vito trails off, scratching his head. What language do dragons speak anyway?
Draconic and Arcana? Trade common, maybe?
I know barbarous and demonic. He looks at Blair. Do you happen to speak any of that, Blair? He asked the sorcerer, trying to look attentive.
I know arcane. I can help.
Wait, but does everyone know the common trade?
That's the joke. That's great to hear. He smiles and looks at everyone. She can help.
Blair looks confused at Vito's look.
Now, without further ado, let us proceed. I can't control what you all would say, but please stay in line with my goals. Now. Victoria then holds her large Magisphere and begins inputting the commands as she casts the spell holography before putting it on the ground. Victoria begins by walking gallantly before stopping and looking up. I am Victoria Brightshield, and I have come to strike a bargain. For a time, you have gained an infamous reputation around the surrounding villages since you have slain all the adventurers that came before us. We never got the chance to know your name. Therefore, we have dubbed you Sealan the Dragon. I am here to challenge you on a duel of our own terms. We will not slay you upon your defeat or touch your hoard of treasures, but in turn, you shall let us pass through, and from here on out, you shall not slay any adventurers that come across your path. Victoria then pauses, assuming she is waiting for the dragon's response. We know you're still a young dragon, and you have much to live for. I am sure that there are many things you'd like to experience. It would be a shame if your life were to be cut short. Victoria says with a powerful tone, not loud, however. She then continues to look up proudly, now staying quiet as she waits for her companion's response.
You know, it's kinda awkward to tell someone you gave them a nickname even though you don't know them. Vito whispers to the rest of his party. Hopefully it's quiet enough that Victoria doesn't hear him.
Don't forget to roll the spellcasting check.
26.
He moves closer to Victoria and starts talking in a respectful manner. "Oh, great dragon, please hear our plea, for our destination is far beyond your nest, and we don't seek to invade your home for unjust cause. So we come to talk with you with fairness in mind, trying not to anger the dragon."
Vito sighs and steps up too. He doesn't want to look uncool by cowering behind his friends, ignoring their pretentious talk, Mr. or Miss Dragon. He speaks up. "Are you willing to entertain a chat with us? We ain't looking to kill you."
She redacts the last part that Vito says using the spell, the killing part.
Blair comes and says, "By order of the mighty and honorable King August Castilio I, you shall lay down your wings." She looks surprisingly brave while speaking into a magisphere.
Vito winces for a brief second at the mention of King August. He tries to hide it, of course. "Say, Blair, this is a bit sudden and poorly timed, but you're a local from around here?"
Yes, Castilio was born and raised, Vito.
I've visited it before. 2 years ago, to be precise. Nice town." He lowers his hat to hide a bit of his blush. Real, reassuring to have a local around.
You are not locals? Where are you from? Maybe you are Anon adventurers? She giggles. Got it, like from Anon region? We, have some of them from there.
Yep, Victoria is surely going to redact the casual chatter. "So, do you agree with our terms? If you feel dissatisfied with it, you may name your own terms. Perhaps we can make a compromise." Victoria says that after the other two are done chatting.
"I'm from the Dagnia region. And the Anon region. Good one." He laughs with her too. It's hard to tell if it was faked or genuine. "That's funny."
And with that, Victoria proceeds to end the recording after redacting the necessary parts. Now, we just play this and toss it over. Is everyone ready?
"I will move into position and then I will be," he says as he moves to a nearby wall next to the cave entrance. "Should I roll hide as well?"
If you move closer than 30 meters, then yes.
"I think I'm fine there, then."
Nuela looks at the strange woman for a moment before addressing the group. "Good luck," she says, but her eyes are on Vito. Then she attempts to disappear into the underbrush. 17 double ones. And promptly trips on some undergrowth. Kill me now.
Vito nods at Nuela's encouragement. It was cut short by a chortle at her tripping, though.
As Elio and Nuela cautiously make their way toward the dense foliage surrounding the entrance of the mysterious cave, little does Nuela realize the invisible force of nature conspiring against their stealthy endeavor. In a cruel twist of fate, a sudden gust of wind carries the faint scent of Nuela towards the hidden lair of the fearsome dragon, immediately awakening its heightened senses to her proximity. As a mighty roar trembles the surroundings, I need you all to roll initiative, monster knowledge, weak point, and prepare combat preparation.
For initiative 10.
For initiative 17. Combat prep. Activate beetle skin.
Well, we're boned.
Really biting me in the butt for not taking the innate evocation. But dagger throwing is funny.
For MK, 18.
It's a lesser dragon, indeed.
For MK, 22.
And you know its weak point.
Sweet. Weakness exploit means I can double the effect. But just for me, I think.
For dragon's danger sense, 17.
Elio prepares for the worst as he notices the dragon was alerted by our presence. "Please don't fail me." "Legs," he mutters as his legs start to change. Combat. Preparing for quick evasion with gazelle feet.
Little people, do you dare enter my domain once more? Prepare to be incinerated by my fiery wrath.
The dragon moved gracefully towards Elio, engulfing the area with its flaming breath, but Elio resisted the flames just with his survival spirit. Its tail struck with formidable strength, yet missed the target. But its wings unleashed a tempest of wind and fury that even the Soleil couldn't escape from.
Elio resists the fire breath with the survivability combat feat as they are in a natural environment.
30 for physical damage by the wings. 28 for fire magic halved with resist. So, 44 total damage.
I will totally die next turn.
Player's turn.
Victoria does not hesitate to drive up to the dragon as it reveals itself. I am Victoria Brightshield, and I am here to make you an offer. Will you please give us the chance to hear us out? She says as she stands gallantly on the seat of her skybike.
Sure, after one roasted Soleil.
Victoria looks even more pissed.
Well then. Vito looks at Blair as he loads cards into a strange-looking gun. You still want to be a dragon slayer, Blair?
Yes.
Victoria makes a normal move towards the dragon. Very well, we'll just beat you to submission, then we talk. Victoria says before attempting to perform a somersault in the air with her bike, using it to attack the dragon wing. 23 for accuracy.
Hits.
6 for 20 physical damage.
9 applied. 75 HP left.
Elio takes a long breath, recovering a bit from the damage he just took. Recovery. Then he takes his 2 axes from his back, one on each hand, and says, "We just wanted to talk. But I guess there will be no more talking now," then prepares for combat. As he holds his axes, his arms start swelling, growing in size, bare muscle, giant arms, and his eyes change to that of a feline, cat eyes. Using the old secret from the Phylacian school, turbulent wind double-handed cut, he prepares his aim with one hand, aimed attack 2, while looking for weakness to hit with the other, lethal strike 3. As he finishes, he goes after the wounded wing of the beast. 29 and 27 for first and second accuracy checks. 5 and 8 for 25 and 29 physical damage.
14 and 18 applied damage. 42 HP left.
Even if I die here, I will make sure you never fly again, you oversized lizard.
Blair, your boyfriend is about to die. Go help him.
She will act after Vito.
Gah, those idiots. Vito grits his teeth and grabs his imp seal from out of his pocket. The gate imp materializes out of the black smog coming out of it.
So you need some advice, lover boy.
She immediately teases her master to Vito's annoyance. Just transform. With a shrug, the gate imp flies forward and turns into black gates. Dark Master of the Fae, honor our deal and bring forth natural terror. Kick her back. Holding out a gem to the skies, Vito summons forth a gangly-looking old man with the face of a bird of prey next to Elio. All right, he focuses back on the beaded necklace that is his imp seal and chants again, demonic. Tighten the chain that binds, recommand. With that done, he looks at Blair. Blushing a little, he holds up his gun and pulls out a bright red card that matches his cheek slightly from inside it. He crushes it and pats her on the shoulder. If you don't mind, it's to add a little juice to your offensive spells. Blair gets buffed with lean force, increasing magic damage for 18 rounds.
It is time to slow down this farce of a battle. Meta magic distance, X2, slow, 23 for spell check.
24. Resists.
Fucking draw. She stops herself.
You tried your best. The alchemist cheers her on, then looks at his demon. Kick her back, do your thing. Please be a 3. 3. Yes. Kekeback uses Stone Guard. Elio got +5 on defense.
Action move into the skirmish range of the dragon and cast Cure Heart at Elio, or move to within 20 meters of Elio so the spell can reach him.
You cannot move and cast spells, only with limited move.
Cure Heart has a long range, enough to be cast with limited move.
Okay, she takes a limited move towards Elio and then casts Cure Heart. Using a Mako Charge Crystal. 21 for spell check. 7 for recovery. Elio recovers 19 HP.
Enemy turn. With great magic control, the dragon had cast a blizzard against Elio and Victoria. She had been lucky to resist the attack with minimal damage to her and her ride. Sadly, Soleil had not had such luck, as he had gotten a direct hit from the source of the attack, with his only relief being his equipment, which had had just a bit of magic resistance. 6, 3, and 4. 20 water/ice magic damage for Elio, 8 for Victoria, and 9 for the mount.
17 because of the Combat Butler outfit buff.
Yes,
Good thing I got that heal for you.
but the barrage of attacks didn't stop there, no. He followed with a tail sweep against them, barely missing the moving targets, and enraged by that fact, he aimed with both its wings directly at the pesky Soleil to finish it off, failing once again to hit its target. Player's turn.
Victoria pulls out 2+1 Derringer from her side belt and poses, making a cross with her arms. Cleanse, purge, decontaminate. She mutters under her breath before aiming her guns at the dragon's wing. Victoria uses Cat's Eyes and casts Laser Bullet on both of her guns before shooting it on the wings of the dragon. 26 and 24 for accuracy.
Both hits.
6 and 6 for 54 magic damage total.
Wing A is down.
The beast falls.
You will be roasted.
We gave you a chance to talk. Victoria plainly says, displaying no empathy for the dragon. She then uses her skybike to make an attempt to slam it against the dragon's body. 26 for accuracy. 10 for 24 physical damage to the body.
10 applied.
And that's my turn. Oh wait, Victoria casts Auto Guard and ends her turn.
Blair makes a full move, just beyond 20 meters from the dragon. That's her turn.
Seeing how poorly everyone is doing, Nuela rushes the dragon, running up its tail and trying to drive her blade into its body. Her form ripples as her horns grow larger, and her monstrous form comes out. 24 for accuracy. 5 for 22 physical damage. A pathetic 22 damage. Sad.
8 applied damage.
I will try using my mana strike next time, after it burns me up, of course.
Elio proceeds to ease his pain using a breathing technique, recovery, and then prays to Titan for further vitality, using the mana saved on the Mako Charge Crystal as payment. Oh Titan, please hear my prayers, for my wounds to be healed so I can keep standing in battle, so I can keep following your path. Casts Cure Heart on himself. 15 for spellcasting check. 6 for 14 HP recovery. Recovered a total of 20 this turn.
Get it, Vito.
Get what? Quebec, go do stuff. Veto orders. Not even bothering with demonic as he panically rushes forward. 3 on the demon action table. Quebec casts Stone Guard on Victoria, in case the dragon does a melee attack.
Victoria just nods in approval without turning her head. She looks even more gallant than before.
All right, she's watching. Vito twirls his gun and points in the direction of his friends. You know, I bought this thing specifically for these kinds of situations. Healing spray. He pulls the trigger in quick succession and fires a misty beam of pure green. 2 of the shots hitting Elio and Victoria, with the final shot hitting the mana bike right at the steering wheel. All heal 10 HP.
Enemy turn. Enraged after losing one of its wings, the dragon had all its focus on Victoria, who had dealt the finishing blow to it. With a tail slam and an all-out attack from the remaining wing, it tried to smash her and the bike for sure this time, but with her riding skills, she was able to avoid both hits once again, but no speed could escape what came next. With a mighty roar, the dragon cast Erase Magic not only on Victoria, but also on Nuela and Blair. With her strong willpower, Blair was able to resist the spell, but neither Nuela nor Victoria were strong enough, so they lost the ability to cast more than half of their spells. Actually, it is most likely he cannot specify different types for targets, but hey, it's a 500+ years dragon. His metamagic targets is a bit better.
What does that do?
You can only use level 7 or higher spells for 3 rounds.
I'm guessing I can't upcast spells like on other games.
Yeah, you can't. Player's turn.
Call upon the power of Gemini. Vito closes his eyes and chants in demonic again. Splinter! He shouts out a word backed by grand power as his demon begins to shift and turn. With the fall of a leaf, the Kekabak blinks out of existence and appears in 2 places at once. Destroy evil, Kekabak! Vito orders with bloody zeal. And then, using Unveiling the Beyond to buff any hits or attacks by +3. If the dragon hits me, I take +3 damage. 6 and 3, recommand on the 6. 2, Stone Guard on Nuela, and he blushes slightly. Blair. If you don't mind, that is Blair.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thanks.
And, one more thing. He loads his card shooter again and shoots a green beam at Blair. Vivid Liquid. That should give you a few more spells. Using 1 S-rank green card to give 10 MP to Blair. Thanks to distant evocation and the card shooter, I can shoot it 20 meters away.
Inner Rosemi has a strong urge to comment on this and call him out on being a simp. Victoria lightly stomps her foot on her bike as if to make her presence even larger. Willing to talk now, dragon?
The dragon rolls back at Victoria.
Victoria closes her eyes and lets out a sigh. You leave me no choice. I, Victoria Brightshield, shall whoop thy buttocks. With that, she extends her arms sideways, performing a T-pose on the dragon. Victoria casts Laser Bullet on both of her guns. She then enhances said bullet by enchanting it with Homing Laser. She then shoots her bullets without adjusting her posture. The bullets that emit out of her guns become a laser bending its direction towards the dragon's body. 28 and 26 for accuracy. 9 crit. Then 8. 37 magic damage on the first hit. 4 for 24 magic damage on the second hit. 61 magic damage total to body. Now, it's time to finish this. Victoria drops her derringers as it runs out of bullets. She then uses her skybike to crash towards the dragon. 21 for accuracy. 10 for 24 physical damage.
Sanguis. Decimus Ordo Impetum. Frigus. Nyx. Ventus. Blair casts Blizzard with magic control on a dragon. Spellcasting versus willpower.
23. Halved.
5, 7, and 5 for 20. 23 and 20 magic damage. 63 total magic damage. Blair unleashes a powerful ice storm, freezing dragon in its path.
2 shots. My derringer's empty. Victoria says as she looks down after dropping her guns that are emitting smoke from the heat caused by the shots.
Elio prepares his attacks once again. Using his school secret, he prepares one hand to aim properly, aimed attack 2, and the other to aim for weakness, lethal strike 3, and then goes for it. 25 and 20, hit 1, miss 1. 2, automatic failure. Damn it! He says as the dragon skin is too hard to damage it, and as he does so, his arm's enhancement wears off.
Summoning her blessings, she goes for it, causing mana to crackle along her blade as she stabs the body. 27 for accuracy. 8 crit. 8 double crit. 6. 49 total physical damage.
Mine was bigger.
Yours were dual hits.
Body has 0 HP. Enemy turn. The dragon was weak. Both its body and wings had weakened, but its spirit hadn't faltered. Using some breathing techniques, it healed the wounds on its head while making a beetle-like defense. A flaming breath engulfed the front line. 27 for Elio, 26 for Victoria, 14 for the bike, and 22 for Nuela of fire magic damage. It also raises its head defense by 2 while healing 7 points to the head with beetle skin and recovery.
Victoria takes the fire breath at full force. She does not make an attempt to dodge it, nor does she panic as she is set on fire. In fact, with her hair and her bike in flames, she only appears even more edgy than before.
And to finish it off, it once again tried to hit the party with its remaining wing aiming at Nuela, but missed. Player's turn.
And when everyone thinks she's done, Victoria pulls out yet another set of derringers. With a flare in her eyes, she does not hesitate to blast the dragon to shreds. Victoria casts yet another laser bullet in both her guns and uses homing laser to enhance it. 23 for accuracy, miss, second try. 23 for accuracy, misses again. 34 MP left. When I run out, we are plucked. Wait, no, I got 20 left.
Vito moves closer so that everything can be in the range of most of his abilities. It's only a coincidence that position happens to be next to the sorcerer he's not so subtly crushing on. Howdy. He quickly tips his hat to her before loading his card shooter once again with green cards. Healing spray. He shouts as he pulls the trigger and shoots a card at each of his injured companions. And Kekubak, keep going. He adds for his demon. 3 on the demon chart. Stone Guard on Nuela. Also spending 3S rank green cards to heal 20 HP. To Nuela, Elio, and Victoria.
Sanguis, Septimum Gradum, Maledictum, Trahe, Corpus Facus Dracus. Blair uses Draw Out with Meta Magic Distance on Dragon's Head. 20 for spell check, halved. 21, so 11 magic damage to HP and MP, and she restores 9 MP.
105 HP left.
I'm getting quite tired of all your magic tricks. So how about you look at this and shut up for a bit? As he sheathes both axes to the holder on his back, Elio gets closer to the head of the dragon, and from his body, a strong light flashes for a moment, stunning the beast for a second, Radiant Physique 3. Can I take out an item from the bag and use it on the same turn?
You need a free hand.
So I sheath both my axes then and use it.
Axes aren't swords, so you need a major action to put them away.
Even with a modified weapon holder on the back?
Why didn't you say so? Yes, you can use minor actions to do all that. The dragon has high intelligence, so I'm going hard on you all with every trick, but hey, it is a cool battle in the end.
I bet you like that, you fat lizard. Now, how about this? Elio takes an item from his bag and equips it on his left hand. A weird artifact with sigils on it that's used to confuse the enemy. I don't really get it, but I heard this may give you a headache if you were too smart. So let's see how smart you really are. He uses some of his mana to activate the puzzling sign, pictures, and scribbles, from Elio's point of view, that appear in front of the dragon. 3 success. For the turn, it will have -2 on all int-based checks.
Nuela shrieks in pain from the flame breath and then gasps from the nearly full heal, only down 9 HP. In anger, she drives her short blade into the dragon's head. 21, only to be deflected away at the last second.
It has -2 evasion from the flash, by the way, so it should be a hit.
Woot! As the light blinds it, it actually twists its head so that her knife pierces between its scales. 7, so 37 physical damage using Mana Strike for 21 applied damage. Not my best, but decent.
82 HP left. Enemy turn. In a desperate effort, the dragon tried to strike Victoria with its wings while recovering some damage and casting protection on itself. 28, Protection 3 spell works. Dragon takes -4 damage from both magical and physical sources for 3 minutes, 18 rounds, and it also heals 7 HP. Player's turn.
Victoria uses her Skybike's ability to high-speed retreat to move 3 meters away, leaving the skirmish. With the last of her bullet, she makes an attempt to shoot the dragon once again. Victoria's skybike received 40 damage. Victoria casts Cat's Eyes, laser bullet on both of her guns, and homing laser enhancement on her bullets. 27-23. Both hits. 5 and 7 for 23 and 26 magic damage. With that, Victoria empties her Derringer and she drops them on the ground after exhausting its bullets. As usual, smoke is emitted from the guns she drops in the heat.
48 HP left.
Ugh, this fight's gone long enough. Vito twirls his card shooter and inserts a black card into it. Eat this, armorist! He yells as the card flies through the air, trailing behind a dark light. 22 for evocation check.
Resists, so it will work for one turn.
Oh, forgot to check for that. Oh yes, spent one S-rank black card for that. That's good enough. He then clears his throat and holds his left palm out. To hold the power of infernal stars. He chants in demonic as a purplish and shadowy orb appears on said palm. Astral burn! With a flourish, he fired the spell at the dragon. 23 for spell check. Damn, well, it resists half, so it still hits. 4, so 9 damage with a distance bonus.
5 applied, 43 HP left.
Nuela spins and thrusts her blade up under its chin. 23 for accuracy, hits. 8, crit. 10, crit. And 7 for 51 physical damage.
38 applied, 8 HP left.
Time to end this. Death Ray. Sanguis. Tridexim Ordo Delicti. Insta Letalis. Lux 20 on spell check.
Halved.
Wait.
Finish it off.
10, so 34 magic damage. Halved to 17.
13 applied, no -20 on death check due to success. Dragon falls with -5 HP on the head. 18 from a TN5 death check. It is alive, just unconscious. Combat ends.
Would giving it an awake potion do something?
Do you still want to keep it?
I want to talk to it, for roleplay.
I want a reimbursement for my material cards.
I'll give you 9K. Victoria steps out from her skybike and starts approaching the unconscious dragon. She places her hand on its snout and just stares at it. It's alive.
Well, I want to stab it. It literally put me on fire.
That was incredible, Blair. Vito does not waste time in complimenting the sorcerer with him.
It was fine. Could be much better.
Dragon resisted all of her spells with those low rolls.
But you tried your best, and that's, admirable. It was a bad matchup. I didn't fare any better, too.
So, why don't we finish it off?
Yes, I need proof of his death. A fang will do.
Do you still want to tame it?
But we promised Victoria to keep it alive. He looks at the artificer in question.
Ugh, who cares about a promise? It tried to turn you all into barbecue popsicles.
The gate imp chimes in.
Victoria pulls out her gun bullet shower and shoots the dragon's head with a healing bullet just to keep it from dying. I'll only heal it once. Then let's see if we can talk. If it persists, then we put it down for good. 23 for accuracy. 7, dragon heals 18 HP. Victoria then puts her gun back after using it before proceeding to walk away to collect the guns she dropped. Now she looks silly, having to pick up after dropping her weapons. At the moment, the idea sounded cool to her. After collecting them, she began to reload them with bullets and just pointed her gun at the dragon, waiting for it to wake up. At this time, she feeds herself a magic seaweed. 10 heals 5 MP.
Wait, I can heal it for 3 HP.
It's fine, 18 HP is one hit for me, haha.
Well, we have at least an hour to investigate its lair. Who knows what treasures will be there?
So, who is using Awakened Potion on it?
I'm about. If this ends up biting us after, I'm taking your head as well. Elio then proceeds to awaken the dragon with his prayer. In the name of Titan, wake up, you fat. Awaken. 18 for spellcasting.
I have an awaken potion, too, but I don't want to wake it up. We have time.
Too late. Talk now.
Okay.
Dragon comes to its senses.
Victoria takes a deep breath and approaches the dragon. She stares at him with valor. Dragon, what's your name?
I'm Dronathan, the Eternal Flame, conqueror of skies and guardian of the Magitech realms.
Vito makes a point of standing between Blair and the dragon. Frankly, he doubts he'd be more effective than his combative friends, but he wants to at least look cool. He keeps his card shooter ready and loaded in case the dragon misbehaves.
Wait. Guardian of the Magitech realms? Are you guarding those ruins?
Too long. Don't care. You're Sealan now. Victoria declares. Do you want to talk now?
The dragon's deep voice resonates through the cave, causing the ground to tremble. This is only a title. Nothing to see there, young one. The dragon growls, its eyes gleaming with wisdom and power.
If that's the case, then what are you even doing here? Vito rolls his eyes. He hasn't forgotten their mission here, but he can't really spill it with strangers around. No matter how attractive they are.
Yeah. How can you be a guardian if you aren't protecting anything? I bet there is something there.
I live here. This is my home.
Victoria just has a painful smile on her face as her talk is interrupted. I thought you guys weren't interested in talking to the dragon. Is something she would like to say, but she just keeps it in her thoughts for now. After all, it's not every day that everyone gets to talk to a dragon.
Elio thinks for a bit, then signals the dragon to wait with his hand, then goes to Vito and whispers. Should we tell him the truth about why we are here? I think he may even help us.
Oh, come on. He's spouting words more nonsense than my nana's manure pile. Can't blame me for taking a jab at it. He shrugs before going silent and gesturing for Victoria to continue her offer to the dragon. He then whispers back to Elio, let's let this play out first.
Maybe we should mention the dwarfs or leave at least to see if he has some reaction. He continues.
Chance. Victoria says loudly as she finally gets the chance to talk to the dragon as Elio and Vito whisper secret stuffs. We have spared your life, for you are just a young dragon. Don't you want to continue living and see more of the world? Because I do. But the killing has to stop. We won't touch your hoard, we just need to pass by. Will you let me and my comrades pass through? Victoria asks the dragon.
Pass where? There was once a facility when I was a child, and little people studied me there and named me their guardian. But it was destroyed and buried underground long ago.
Wherever, whenever. She says as she begins to get the gist that this dragon is really protecting something. You're strong, and you will be stronger. Victoria claims as she lightly bumps her fist on the dragon's snout. But you have to put an end to this monstrosity. You are not Aldronathor. You're just Sealan. Sealan the Mighty. And people will know you for not the monster you are, but for you might. The people will praise and respect you instead of fear and oppose you.
Ignoring Victoria's speech, he replies to the dragon. We were told about that same facility and that its entrance was inside the cave you call home right now. We really didn't come to fight. We just wanted to get inside those ruins, though you didn't give us much chance to explain. Also, this lady thought you were cool and wanted you as a companion, he says, pointing at Victoria.
Vito sighs and looks at Blair. It's to gauge her reaction to that information, most definitely only for that reason and no other intent.
Little people always come for dragons, studying us, attempting to create metallic dragons, and even daring to enslave our kind. All my early years were spent yearning for freedom, and I finally attained it after the barbarous attack all those years ago. However, your people decided to hunt me down and send their little people to invade my lair and steal my precious eggs. Your kind slaughtered my beloved mate, Your kind destroyed the potential life of my unborn offspring, and now you have the audacity to address me with such disrespectful names. Respect. Do not dare to bring me back only to humiliate me further.
She distanced herself just enough to not be in the breath's range and is clutching a Mako stone in her hand, looking around.
Victoria just sighs. Are you deaf? Do you want to die? You will take on a new name, abandon your old one, as it will just hunt you down. I don't care what my kind does. I'm not them, and they are not them. Victoria points to her group. We could have just straight up killed you, but we didn't. We're different. I don't know about them, but I know for myself that I care, and I want to help. You're still a young dragon. So much to live for. You can't die like this. You have to live on and be stronger. Bring glory to your new name. For a young dragon, you're kind of stupid. What I'm basically telling you is you have to abandon this way of living and make a new one. Clearly, this hasn't been working out for you.
Vito shakes his head at her words. Victoria, that's enough. You're just assaulting his pride at this point.
Nuela glares at Victoria and then runs her hand through her hair. Blair, can I see those mission sheets? She asks.
Gives a bunch to Nuela.
Elio nods at Nuela as he kind of understands what she is thinking. I know there is no way to give you back what you have lost, but I think we can at least make it so you can live in peace with no more little people to hunt you down. He looks at Blair and says, "You said that with just a fong. We can show proof of his death, right?"
Nuela reads through the warrants. What, exactly, has this dragon done to demand its death? What proof are people seeking?
To speed it up and clarify, you can fake his death by taking a fawn and by the dragon being gone from this place.
It's more of a question of what the dragon is guilty of. Has it burned down villages and all that, or is it mostly, oh, the scary dragon needs to die?
Second.
Gone temporarily or permanently?
Permanently, of course. Last I heard, dead people don't go back to their houses.
Except Lave, that is.
Technically, he didn't go back to his house.
Nuela puts down the papers. Aldronathor, the human lands have placed a price on your head. It is not why we came here, but many will come. What was done to your clutch is terrible. What was done to your mate is unforgivable. I would spare your life as a priestess of the Night Mother Scene, protector of all in need. To do so, it would require you to leave this place and surrender a tooth or perhaps a claw. We could claim your death, and you could leave and go live elsewhere. What say you?
I'm surprised to find such a knowledgeable woman among you, wielding such a tiny but deadly piece of metal. I agree with this. I can give you my treasures as proof of my defeat.
Don't you value your treasures, though? A tooth will grow back.
Moving all his treasure away is gonna take a while.
Nuela bows at the dragon's compliment. Thank you, Aldronathor. If you would allow it, I would be willing to heal some of the damage to your wings so that you could fly. She looks over at Vito, or perhaps Vito might be a better choice if he is willing. I believe his skill surpasses my own.
Why send him away when we can sit around and get to know each other? Surely, we want to hear more of his perspective. Maybe he's curious about us, too. Victoria adds,
Awaken is needed for the wing. It's treated as a 0 HP character.
How do we feed an awaken potion to a wing?
You pour it.
Oh, it doesn't have to be ingested?
Yes, how do you think the throwing feat works when you throw a potion?
Honestly, I didn't know that was a thing, but that makes sense with that in mind. Regardless of whether the dragon chooses to stay or not, Victoria applies Awaken Potion to its tail and body. You're free to choose whether to stay here and chat with us or to fly away. If you decide to fly away, I'll heal you up, too. Victoria adds as she continues to apply the Awaken Potion to the dragon. Victoria can't help but sneak petting the dragon as she applies the potion.
I imagine talking with us isn't high on the agenda, but I would be willing to converse if, she turns to the dragon, you are.
26 on notice check. I'm grateful for healing my wing, little Maria.
Maria. Nuela glares at Victoria.
Maria, Elio looks confused at Victoria.
Aw, you must be dizzy from getting downed. There's no Maria here, silly dragon. 21 and 20 for accuracy. 4 and 7 for 34 healing on wing. As she shoots the dragon, she whispers to it. Don't let them know.
All of you can reroll detect. Target number 24.
20 for detect.
21 for detect.
It must be because of my perfume. MHHM Wangi Wangi, a perfume suiting a noble lady like me. Victoria continues to make excuses.
Vito sniffs the air around her and nods. You smell like roses. Nice perfume.
As previously agreed, the fearsome dragon bestows upon you his formidable fawn, a symbol of his power and defeat. With a mighty flap of his enormous wings, the majestic creature takes flight towards the eastern horizon, disappearing into the vast sky as you find yourself standing at the entrance of his lair, filled with anticipation and wonder.
Isn't that where the tundra roughly is? Direction-wise? The gate imp comments in awe of the dragon's flight. Vito, meanwhile, does not waste a single second to immediately grab the fang and hand it to Blair. Well, those were your missions. Here you go.
Thank you, Blair says, giving Vito a kiss on his cheek.
He clears his throat, using a fist to unsuccessfully hide his blush. You're welcome. Turning around faster than a speeding falcon, he walks up to his demon. I'm going to, banish my demon now.
Can I watch? Never seen that done before.
Right, sure. If you want, just, a moment. Like a jittering school kid, Vito goes through his pack for a moment before deciding to just do the banishment normally. His gate imp, still in her gate form, is verbally holding back a giggle.
Blair stays close to Vito, looking intently.
Nuela scoots over to Elio, close enough that their arms are brushing against each other. She gazes over at Blair and Vito and whispers, aren't they just super cute?
Victoria runs after the dragon and begins shouting. Remember to clear your name! If I don't hear good things from you in the months to come, I'll personally come to whoop thy buttocks again! Victoria then waves her hands in the air as she watches the dragon fly away. As she turns back, she's teary and she is wiping her tears. Children, they grow up so fast.
You have 1 minute left of your disguise set.
Victoria checks the group and observes them to see if they are busy flirting with Blair.
Vito is doing exactly what she thinks he's doing, explaining banishment and exorcism to Blair as he prepares the rite to banish his demon.
Blair looks busy with Vito, sometimes giggling and sometimes intently watching.
What are the other two doing?
We don't have another artificer in the party, so no one will understand if you recast disguise set. For others, it can look like any other utility spell.
Since she already sees the dragon off, she'll run towards the mouth of the cave and recast her set disguise there, where the others are unlikely to hear her recast it. 25 on spell check.
Now it is even harder to notice Rosemi.
After this, she gets back to the group, still teary-eyed but with a huge smile on her face. She immediately runs up to everyone to grab their hand and jump around in excitement. She takes turns jumping on everyone. Did you see that? Did you see that? We made a dragon tame. A dragon.
I'm too tired to argue the definition of tame. Let rest in the cave for now. If anyone has some herbs to use, then tell me to get my tools ready. He says as he puts the puzzling sign back on his inventory and goes inside the cave.
As Elio cautiously steps into the dragon's lair, he is immediately greeted by a breathtaking sight. The vast ruined artificial dome stretches out before him, with towering walls that reach a height of approximately 30 meters. The room takes the form of a colossal hemisphere with a diameter of around 100 meters. Broken rocks and scattered metal debris are scattered throughout the room, evidence of the destruction that has taken place over time. In the center of the room, Elio's attention is drawn to a gathering of Magitech panels, forming a makeshift nest of the dragon with some scales around. Adjacent to the nest, Elio notices a grid-like structure composed of rusted metal. The grid measures 8 by 8, with a total of 32 Magitech soldiers, 16 positioned on each side. 2 of these soldiers stand out from the rest, each adorned with a crown. They are positioned at opposite ends of the grid, seemingly locked in an eternal standoff.
Better not touch anything. I'm not good with tech. He thinks as he takes his apothecary tools out of his bag and proceeds to apply magic seaweed to recover some mana. But damn, this place is massive, he said aloud. 8 using apothecary tools recovers 14 MP. Anyone else need some recovery? He says to the rest of the group. This may take a while, though.
I do, but it would be better if we just rest until morning. Victoria recommends setting up camp. With that said, she pulls out a tent, ready to set it up. This is what I have. It's enough for 4, but we girls need their privacy. Unless Vito and Blair would want a tent for themselves.
And with these offerings, just got to present these offerings, and Vito seems to be busy showing Blair how he banishes his demons. After presenting spiced ritual fats and candles as offerings, his kekaback was sucked back into its rightful pay. There, our transaction's done. He doesn't seem to have noticed the conversation.
Fair enough. I agree with resting until morning before we continue with the exploration. He says as he puts back his apothecary tools to the bag and takes out a tent from it instead. I have my own tent, so you 3 can sleep on yours while I share mine with Vito. Also, let's camp inside the cave. I doubt anything will get close to a dragon's cave for now.
Victoria comes to collect Nuela and Blair, locking her arms around theirs and pulling them. Sorry, Vito, I'm going to borrow the girls for a bit. We're going to have a girls' night.
Blair doesn't resist and tags along.
Right. He waves, mostly to Blair than the others. I guess I'll be helping Elio with his tent then.
Victoria begins to prepare her tent in the opposite direction of the boys, at least 10 meters apart. So, obviously, Miss Blair likes Vito over there. How about you? Victoria speaks softly so the boys won't overhear them.
When Victoria pulls her away, Nuela spares a longing glance back at Elio before being dragged off. Who do you like, Victoria? She asks, clamping down on the annoyance in her tone.
Victoria pauses to set up the tent as she visibly ponders the thought. After a few moments, she smiles at Nuela. Everyone. But don't say that. Victoria then places a finger on her lips and gives Nuela a huge smile. The smile was something that you'd feel, something that Rosemi would make, that innocent, naive smile of that little rose. But as she finishes saying that, she resumes setting up the tent. As the tent's done, she invites the 2 in. Let's go inside and have a chat.
She crawls to the tent, curious to see where this goes.
I love to talk and gossip. Yes, yes. Let's go.
Meanwhile, on the boys' side, should we make a fire or make some light for the night? Elio asks Vito. I could make some sunlight for now, though I'm not sure if it's the right thing to do, in case anyone outside notices it.
It's a cave known for housing a dragon. Light won't be unheard of, and nobody's dumb enough to walk into such a place. Vito responds as he holds up the beaded necklace he uses as an imp seal. Now, I'm going to cast a spell. A barrier to detect anything approaching. So give me a moment. Bewitching space, unholy lands. I call upon the senses of the olden kin. He chants something in demonic. Barrier circle. He finishes solemnly.
Oh, nice work, Vito. This should be enough to keep us alert for tonight then. He says, impressed by the demonic magic.
Everyone can sense a detection spell being cast. Don't mind that, girls. It's just for any varmints creeping up on us. Vito disturbs the conversation with a shout. Just carry on with whatever you were doing.
Elio kneels and sets one hand on the floor between the tents while praying to Titan to give some sunlight. 17 for spell check. An orb of light appears and stays where his hand is. This should be enough for the night, he says as he stands up and goes to his tent. I'm going to sleep, you should also rest, he tells Vito as he enters the tent and literally falls asleep.
Back to the girls' side, as soon as the two girls enter the tent, Victoria lies down on the ground in between them with her front pressed to the ground. She turns to look at both Nuela and Blair before speaking. So, where are the two of you from? Have you two ever had a girls' night? Do you two have questions for each other? Victoria asks a barrage of questions.
From Castillo, I went to my uncle in the Anon region and studied there at the magician's school. I was the first in my class. After that, I returned to the capital and have been working for the good of the people for 5 years. But I'm still single and ready to mingle.
Such a good girl you are. Victoria smiles and gives Blair a pat on the head. I think nobody has asked your hand for marriage yet, but maybe people think you're just too good for them, being a scholar and all. I would be nervous too if I were to approach someone smarter than me, she says with a cheerful tone as she gives out a possible solution to Blair's problem.
What about you, Nuela Victoria? Who are you obsessed about?
Adventure. I never really had the time to develop anything more than short-term friendships due to me traveling to different places to make a name for myself. But there's time I meet some of those old friends, so settling down hasn't been on my mind yet. But hey, maybe after all of this is done, maybe we can meet somewhere. Victoria replies to Blair truthfully as she begins to play with her own hair, twirling it and fiddling with it.
By the way, when will it be done? Dragon is dead. Lair seems to be deserted mostly.
The others seem to have another goal in mind, and I'll be tagging along because of adventure. Are you going to be coming with us? Victoria asks Blair with a curious look on her face.
I can if you ask. But hey, we have Nuela with us to tell. Right, Nuela?
Nuela looks thoughtful. When I was younger, I heard voices that guided me to serve. I thought I was hearing Titan, who would deign to speak to a lowly nightmare like me. But I misunderstood. It was his wife, Scene. At the mention of her goddess name, a look of peacefulness and calm passes over her. Since I realized who was talking to me and what they wanted, I've been guided to aid the poor and sick, the discounted. People like me. I've also learned the arts of the night.
The art of the night? Oh, is this why you came to this distant place with 2 boys?
Nuela chuckles. She pulls some lockpicks from a pouch. That's not the art I was referring to. Though I suppose I have learned a thing or two about that as well. As a scholar, if you are curious, I could show you. She winks at Blair. 25 on unknown check.
That's a darn good roll.
Now what's it for? We may never know.
I think that's Nuela's accuracy mod.
She was on target, that I can say, smiles.
Victoria is suddenly confused at the turn of events. She clearly has no idea what is going on between the two. Rosemi has always been clueless about these stuffs. Being a Maria, she only knows pollination. Though she spent her time exploring the world, there isn't much she knows, especially since she avoids anything that seems political or religious. What is this art you are talking about? She asked with a clueless smile on her face.
Sunny morning comes to all as you restore 20% HP and full MP. Blair is energetic, and as you wake up, you see her doing stretches before the cave.
Whatever happened to the tent last night, Victoria will frantically walk herself out, being flustered and all. She even forgot that she had left her magisphere inside. With the 2 girls doing some sort of art, she couldn't help but imagine the boys having their own boys' night, and the thought made her blush. Is this what homies do all the time? Oh my gosh, I don't think I can handle it, she says to herself as she cups her cheeks. Being an actual Maria and all, she spends the night just sitting by in the center and hugging her knees. Despite being surrounded by people, she felt so alone, enough to cause her tears. She wishes she had brought her Magisphere with her so she could talk to her audience. When the time came when she thought that everything had settled down, she snuck inside her tent to grab her Magisphere, which coincidentally still had Mana Camera running. She began casting the spell once again so she could check for information, something that Blair might have said to Nuela, just gathering every little information she could. 14 for Detect check.
You spot nothing said that was useful.
Why is she looking for me? Is she following us? What is her goal? She asks herself as she checks the video. But of course, upon seeing the act of art, she immediately covered her face and crawled far away from the Magisphere so she could barely hear anything. But she kept listening, just waiting for words to be said. By morning, she hasn't recast her set disguise and is just plainly Rosemi. She can be seen watering herself with a gardening can.
Vito walks out of his tent with a yawn. Seeing Blair, he decided the first thing to do in the morning was to greet her. Morning, Blair. You're up early. The alchemist says he is not too worried about any ambushes due to his spell.
Good morning, sweetheart. How was your night? Mine was great. I feel like I'm ready to investigate those ruins and finally find what we all came here for.
Rosemi is surprised nobody has reacted to her yet. She just continues to intently stare at everyone while watering herself with a gardening can.
Sweetheart, Vito was a little too busy being surprised and embarrassed at the pet name to notice the sudden pink-haired Maria. I, enjoyed my sleep. I dreamt of wheat. He stammered out, let us enjoy the cave expedition together, with our comrades.
I think we have guests. Hello? She looks at Rosemi.
Guests? Vito finally noticed the Maria among them. Hey, you're the wall licker? His gate imp, who's been watching her bosses fumbling from a distance, comments,
Who are you calling wall licker, imp simp? Rosemi shouts back to Vito with an upset tone. However, it's clear that she's bantering.
For the last time, her words aren't mine. He suddenly notices a severe lack of a pretty night girl. Speaking of, is Victoria still in the tent?
Rosemi presses her lips together as Victoria mentioned. Toria? Oh, her! That was my friend. I knew I was going to be late, so I sent her here before me. I was busy doing things, definitely not licking walls. Rosemi lies as naturally as she breathes, or in this case, photosynthesize.
Really now? He raises an eyebrow at her statement before shaking his head with a sigh. That's a darn shame. Leaving without saying goodbye. She seemed really nice too, if a bit optimistic. He looks down in thought. Man, when she decided to heal that dragon, I thought we were done for. Then she opened her mouth and I was on the dragon's side. She might have read a tad too many books. Screws loose on that one. Then he looks up at his artificer friend. Don't tell her I said that.
Hey! Nobody can say bad things about my friends like that. Take that back. I would do the same for you guys, too. Rosemi pouts and turns her back, knowing full well that it has been her all along. She then decides to change the subject so she won't bury herself in this lie even deeper. She waves her hand towards Blair with water dripping down her clothes from the watering. Oh, hi, Blair! It's nice to be finally able to meet you.
Hello? I guess your name is not Wall Licker. She smiles. Blair's song. Very glad to find you, all people in all of places. I'm ready to join your cult. She smiles. It's not often you can find such strong adventurers that I never met before in my home region. She smiles.
You know, Blair, something's been, bugging my noggin. Vito talks, his logical side clashing with his heavily infatuated side. You don't have a party?
Huh? Who said about being in a cult? We're not a cult, and if we are, I'm leaving. Rosemi blurts out as she completely eludes anything religious. And I am the one and only genius, the great Rosemi Sama, and I am number one. Oh ho ho! Rosemi proudly introduces herself, despite her wet state. Speaking of... Hey Imp, Simp, come here a little bit. I want to ask you something. Rosemi gestures for Vito to come closer. So you're a farmer, right? When you water plants, where do you water them on the roots?
No. He seems surprised at being dragged away, but relents. The water has to go through the dirt first. Why do you ask? Shouldn't Ameria already know this?
What? You don't water the leaves? Rosemi said with shock. You have to water the leaves so the dust that gathers gets cleaned off so we can breathe properly. Rosemi scolds Vito.
You said root, so I focused on the roots. Of course I know that, but why do you ask? Is this supposed to be some long-winded metaphor substituting as advice? His face crinkles in annoyance.
I was just making sure you know. Gotta treat plants right. Rosemi nods to herself in agreement. Okay, you can go fush now with your girlfriend. Rosemi teases Vito as she shushes him away.
He was shooed back towards Blair. I don't think I'll ever understand that woman. He mutters before looking back at Blair in slight embarrassment. Sorry for the interruption. Where were we again? Oh, right. Your party?
I'm a self-sufficient adventurer, and working alone for the past 4 years after my party has died in a tragic incident. She pauses. Sorry, I don't want to talk about them.
He panicked at that sudden landmine of a question, only for a moment before he held her on her shoulder to comfort her. Sorry for bringing up something sensitive. Let's talk about something else.
Self-sufficient. Why haven't you supplied yourself with a boyfriend before? Rosemi asks far in the background in an attempt to roast her as a joke to lighten up the mood. Or a girlfriend? Rosemi follows up as she remembers last night.
Maybe I've already found someone. She smiles.
Rosemi is confused about whether she meant Nuela or Vito. Maybe both? She ponders upon the thought.
Elio bursts out of the tent with a huge smile and exclaims, "What a glorious day to praise Tid." And before he continues, he notices the pink-haired Maria and says, "Oh, you are back," smile disappearing in an instant. "You are late. Did your tongue get stuck somewhere yesterday? We could have used more help with a little dragon-sized issue we had."
Rosemi just pouts. Why does everyone assume I'm just licking walls now?
"Oh, so you weren't stuck. Just late then. I don't think that's better."
Morning, Elio. Vito waves at the soleil cheerily and with a slight blush. How was your night?
"Morning. Just slept through the night with no issue." He waves back.
Rosemi notices that Vito has a blush on his face upon seeing Elio. So it is true. They had a boys' night. Rosemi thought to herself, which suddenly caused her to blush and hide her face.
Almost everyone in my group died because someone was late. Oh, memories.
Vito can only really continue to hold Blair's shoulder to comfort her. Staring at everyone with a look that says, "Please don't push this."
What? Elio is surprised by the sudden memory of Blair's dead companions. Well, as a priest of Titan, I can only assure you that your companions are in a better place, or at least better than where we are. He tells the girl from yesterday he totally forgot the name of.
Rosemi breaks off from her La La Land for a moment to reply to Elio. As I said, I knew I was going to be late, so I sent a friend of mine to help out. Victoria, you know.
I see. So she came to help us while you were not licking walls. So that makes sense.
Victoria was a nice, refined woman. From which Adventurers Guild is she? And also, from which Adventurers Guild are you all?
We're from a... Vito licks his lips. He's not sure what to answer here. Well, I'm from the Dagnia region. Kingdom of La Lumea. The heart of the Harvest Sun. He deflects it by talking about his homeland.
Same as he and Nuela as well. He follows Vito's reply.
Oh, from? She looks in her notepad. Sun's Blessings Guild. One of the most popular there. Wow. And your guild sent here on a mission?
Victoria is all the way from House of Faraway Thunder. A very far place, but she herself is exploring the world like I do. We both like adventures. Rosemi answers Blair with a half-truth. As for me, well, I forgot. Rosemi then playfully knocks her head and sticks her tongue out.
House of Faraway Thunder, House of Faraway Thunder, House of Faraway Thunder. She is flipping through her notepad.
What's that you're looking through? Vito eyes the notepad curiously.
Potatulcia region. Rosemi butts in, completely getting the name wrong.
Potatulcia region, Potatulcia. Wait a minute, are you joking? There is no region with that name. She looks serious.
Knowing her, she probably just got that name wrong. Vito sighs. This isn't even a cover. It's his genuine thoughts.
I don't know. It's somewhere along that. Ugh, names are so hard to remember, you know, if you encounter and travel a lot. Rosemi pouts.
I can show a map of the continent, and you can say, where are you from?
Percelsia, or whatever its name is.
See? Percelsia, Potatulcia. It's close enough.
Procelsia. Oh yeah, there is a guild there with that name, but how will she get there? It's dangerous.
She seems tough, and her mana bike was pretty fast. I'm sure she's fine.
Better not think about it. If she is friends with the plant, then she will be fine.
She won't be going back, at least anytime soon. Just like me, she would wander around the world. Rosemi says that a gentle smile formed on her face while she recalls her time with Victoria, knowing full well that it was exactly because of her that she inspired Victoria to go adventuring as well.
Honestly, I was thinking of joining you, but you are not being honest with me. You seem to be a shady bunch. You are either very stupid and survived and gained knowledge of this level by some divine miracle, or you are not trusting me with your mission. Blair corrects her glasses.
Rosemi points at Elio. That bud is a sunbather. Rosemi points at herself, too. I love the sun, too. Not shady at all. Sunny. Bright.
Elio, can you shut Rosemi's mouth before she makes us look worse than we actually are? Vito sighs.
Hey, you started it by calling me wall liquor. It made me look bad. Rosemi pouts.
But you are bad?
I imagine Nuela is still sleeping through all this.
Probably tired from last night. Rosemi suddenly just stops being pouty as her eyes become teary and her voice soft. You really mean that?
With every bit of my soul, he smiles. And I'm a priest. I have a soul to spare.
She is mean to me. Where is Lady Victoria to save the day? Her eyes begin to tear up.
Look what you have done. The poor girl is close to tears.
Rosemi's roses just begin to wilt slowly as she looks down. A moment of silence from her, but soon enough, she quickly stood up and quickly walked towards the Magitech room. You can hear her try to muffle a sniffle by making her footsteps loud. I'm going to check the Magitechs.
Wait. He looks at the crying Rosemi and then at the teary-eyed Blair. She's, not from Dagnia. He decides to comfort Blair first. I was, being honest with being from Sun's Blessings, by the way, he says softly.
Why did you then evade my questions about this place? It is not cool. I thought we had a connection.
He sighs and then thinks for a moment, looks at Vito and Rosemi and says, I guess we could tell you, though only if everyone else agrees, as it's not something we can trust anyone about. He pauses and continues, and so far I think they do trust you.
Well, he licks his lips and ponders his words. The tears are tugging with his heartstrings, but he still remembers the importance of his mission. The sequence of events was complicated. As Elio says, we can't say much. Our job is a little top secret.
Nuela crawls out of the tent. She looks tired and thinks she got little rest. Staring at the scene she just walked into, she focuses on Rosemi, then Blair, then Elio. What in the abyss is going on?
Vito instinctively peeked at the mention of the abyss before realizing who said it. Ah, Nuela. Perfect timing. I think we need to have an, emergency party meeting.
Just say the truth. Omit some top secret stuff. But if you want me in your company, I need some clarity, she says, sobbing a bit.
Do you want me to tell her? Or do you prefer to do it instead? I'm sure you will be more delicate on the subject than any of us, he tells Nuela.
Blair looks confused, looking at Elio and Vito.
He looks conflicted about the whole ordeal. Well, he starts but doesn't go anywhere beyond trailing off.
Very well, I will start then. The reason why we are here, we are looking for a weapon on these ruins. Though rather than a weapon, it's more like a mount, he said, unsure if this would work. Do you remember what the dragon said? About little people making metallic dragons? Copies of it? That's what we came looking for.
Whoa, that should be a very powerful thing indeed. But if you work for the Dagnia Guild, it should be illegal to transport it from the bioregion. You have to get the king's permission for that. Or is this why it is top secret? Don't tell me. You are stealing it to sell?
Wait, Elio, Vito, can we talk for just a second? She smiles at Blair. Sorry, Han, just a moment.
Elio gets closer to Nuela and whispers, "What is it?" She asked for the truth, and I think we owe her that at least.
Vito nods and follows along with Nuela. He's a little too ashamed to look Blair in the eye. His imp at least keeps the sorcerer company. She does deserve to know, but Vito says, is it really the best choice here? We're up against the king of her hometown. Whether she joins us or not are both bad. And that she'd hate me, Vito leaves unsaid.
The same king that is making his own people disappear, the one that uses the life of others to power up his crown. Elio says with determination, if she understands that, then she will help us. If not, then she is just another battle ahead.
And that's exactly the problem, Elio. Vito speaks up slyly. If she's against what we're doing, at worst, we'd have to fight her. And at best, she'd have to keep a secret that'd ruin her life if it gets out. He glances at Blair with a complicated expression before continuing. And that's probably the better option. It's worse if she joins us. He looks at Nuala and then Elio. Let's face it, this isn't our home. If we fail, we die, and it's the end, or we run away. We can afford to leave the bioregion. But what about her? She has family here, pal. Family and a life that's at risk if she joins us. It ain't fair one bit that we can walk away and she can't.
Making sure they are far away from Blair. She bit me last night. I felt some sort of charm or something that I managed to shrug off. I don't think she has been truthful with us.
What?
He looks incredulously at Nuala. Bite you? Why? Did you spill sauce or something?
Nuela rolls her eyes at Vito. No, how do you think she would get close enough to bite me?
Wait, if she bit you, what does it make her? A vampire? In which context would it be normal to bite someone?
Puppies play with each other by nibbling. He says he is trying to apply some most definitely unbiased logical thinking to the situation.
They ain't dogs. Anyway, then maybe we have to get our answers as well. You could start by asking why she bit you. Or maybe asking what she actually is. He tells Nuela.
Do either of you know anything about vampires?
I know their language. Vito frowns. Are you saying our dear Blair here is a vampire? Is that what you're getting on?
She shrugs. I don't know. She bit me, and I was overcome with an urge to serve her that I threw off. You tell me what that means.
Well, there's one way to answer that question. Vito turns around and looks at Blair. Let's ask her to open her mouth.
I only know vampires like to bite and suck blood, he replies to Nuela, then looks at Vito and agrees with his idea. So, Should we just ask if she is a bloodsucker?
No, that's far too rude. We should just ask her to open her mouth wide and see if there are any fangs or magical teeth inside.
I didn't confront her directly at the time for fear that if she were a vampire, I would be on my own. But I think it is worth just asking her directly about last night.
18 from Monster Knowledge check on Blair.
18 then?
Use saw Grace change fate to change the roll result.
24? Okay. Vito recalls a village he visited during a scouting mission a few years ago. In that village, a group of adventurers met their demise, leaving only one survivor. Strangely enough, this pattern repeated with subsequent lone survivors, whose names always began with the letter B. Brianna, Bella, Bonnie, and so on. Reflecting on this peculiar occurrence, as well as the information reported by the dwarves about Lave and his supporters, everything suddenly clicked into place when Blair, standing near the tent, was seen engrossed in reading her notepad or perhaps pretending to be. 23.
That's a worrying roll. Vito hums to himself. He's not sure how to process that revelation. It fits too well with what he knows about Blair to ignore. I think it's more complicated than that. Just follow my lead and treat her as a comrade. I'm a fool, but this has to be done. With a sigh, Vito turns around and approaches Blair. So, I think it's time we tell you the whole truth.
Blair looks excited and smiles.
Now, where were we again? Elio mentioned we're seeking a Magitech dragon inside the ruins, right? He asks, seemingly forgetting how much they've told Blair so far.
She nods.
All right then. I suppose let's start from the beginning. He kneels next to her. You ever heard the incident of the lost Castillo crown?
Heard? I already told you that I delivered it to the king.
Well, we were the party sent before you. He pauses for a moment to let it sink in. What did the king say when you submitted the crown, by the way?
I don't know, but the guild leader delivered it. As for the first part, I also thought that I'd heard your names before, and here you are. Well, you at least survived the tundra.
Typical. Couldn't even be bothered personally thanking the person that risked her life for the darn thing. He rolls his eyes. But back to the story. We followed the dwarf rider all the way to these Magitech ruins. We found him fighting Magitech guards and then intervened. Once we took down the robots, we caught him bleeding and leaning on a rock. Behind him was this most beautiful underground city, filled with luster and life. He waves his arms in a gesture of grandness. The city lights combined with the cave's minerals and geometry made it look like a giant theater. It was an incredible view. You'd have to see it to believe it. You know what? After this whole ordeal, I can show you the city. The dwarves have several underground passages. We don't have to go through the tundra, he offers Blair.
That sounds interesting, sure. She is not super excited, just waiting for more info.
Meanwhile, on her own, checking the Magitech soldiers. 15.
They seem to be functional, but you can program only simple commands like moving one square forward, moving diagonally X squares. Different types of Magitech soldiers have different possible commands. The one standing near the Magitech in the crown has the most commands.
Rosemi begins to walk away from the group, sulking. It has been 2 years, and Rosemi has graduated from wall licking. Only some Magitech licking will cheer her up at this point. That said, she began to lick some old Magitech up and began saying how cool these techs are, like a nerd. She then boots up some Magitech soldiers, prioritizing the one with the crown. Oh, what does this button do? Rosemi says as she begins to press random buttons.
Roll 2d6.
7.
Nothing happens.
Maybe I need to put some mana in them first or something? She asks herself before beginning to look for batteries of some sort.
Back to the plan? Oh, I'm getting sidetracked. He scratches his head. So we found the dwarf and the crown on him, but then found out the truth of the crown. It was an artifact of great power. Took all ounces of my willpower not to scamper off and sell the thing, but in the end cooler heads prevailed and we decided to hear the dwarf out. So, you see, the crown was originally made by his grandfather for ceremonial purposes, but then the ancient vampire wizard Lavish stole it from them. Vito pauses for a moment, seemingly pondering as to how he should say the next few words. It turns out that the current king of Castillo may have been Lav himself in the flesh in a constant cycle of pretending to be his own descendants by rarely appearing in public. With that, we decided to commission the dwarves to create a decoy crown and plant it on a barbarous camp as a diversion while we look for information on Lav.
She stares daggers into Vito from behind. What the hell is he doing? She asks herself.
Blair looks at Vito with a serious face. That's some conspiracy theory you got there. And believing this, since you are explaining this after these years, it means you still believe this. So this Magitech mount you need to defeat the king?
I feel like it legally counts more as an airship than a simple mount, he adds before continuing. But yeah, it took us a few years to find it. But if our intel is correct, then it should be somewhere inside, which is why we're all so tense about you knowing the truth.
Oh, sweetie, thanks for telling me this. She kisses him on the cheek. And as I understand, you previously never used one of those, right? It is a risky endeavor to try this if it works at all, which is not very likely. And you were afraid to tell me since I might think you are crazy or traitors. Don't worry, I don't think you are. But keeping this to yourself might be a good idea for now. But hey, you already have a whole dwarven city with you. That's very exciting. Battle for the freedom against 1,000-year-old wizard king.
He blushes slightly. Hard to fake that. Yeah, it's quite the epic quest we're in. One other reason I don't want to tell you is because it might be dangerous for you to know.
Oh, that's so sweet and kind of you. She gets closer and whispers. You know, next night we might have our own tent. Just two of us. To, do important stuff.
Yes, darling, or it's all right to call you that, right?
Call me Little Sunshine, she smiles.
Right, my little sunshine. He clears his throat, stands up, and holds a hand out. It's morning. Let's get some breakfast.
Blair and Vito will join you at breakfast before you make your next move.
Rosemi will continue to tamper with the Magitechs just to figure out how they work more.
With your previous check, you will find out how to move each piece on the grid. Range, touch costs major action and 1 MP.
Rosemi goes back to the group after a fruitless exploration. She still looks down, but this time for a completely different reason. She has her hand rubbing her stomach, signing that she's hungry as well.
Nuela groans inwardly, knowing that Vito has just betrayed our allies.
Elio puts his hand on Nuela's shoulder and tells her, I'm sure that he knows what he is doing, right? He pauses with a bit of doubt and then continues, let's go and just be prepared for anything. And then as he proceeds to leave, he stops, looks for something on his bag and gives it to Nuela. Oh, right, I forgot. Here, this may be helpful. Gives a dexterity potion and an anti-magic potion to Nuela. I was planning to give it to everyone before the exploration, but kind of forgot about it. Sorry.
Everyone? Where's ours? She says, looking quite the beggar.
Surprised by how far she could listen, Elio gave a tired look. For being late, I'm giving you only one. He says as he gives the dexterity potion to Rosemi. Don't waste.
Takes the potion from Elio and gives him a wide smile. Thank you, Mr. Elio.
Let's perform our morning prayers away from the others, she says. Then whispers, so we can talk privately.
Rosemi, upon hearing a talk about prayers, decided to step away and stand beside Blair.
Very well then, let's go, he replies.
Blair asks Rosemi, since we just met, I'm Blair Song. Where are you from? You look foreign. Are you from Razeldon? I'm curious.
I actually have no idea. Rosemi chuckles as she scratches her head. I was just a young rose maiden when I started adventuring. I couldn't even read, but now I can. Rosemi nods her head at herself proudly. Then, before I knew it, I was traveling and I found myself in Ursula. Rosemi shares with Blair as she makes her best attempt to remember her childhood.
A wonderful story, a rose maiden. Do you mind if I inspect your roses? She smiles slightly.
Rosemi immediately takes a step back and gets on a defensive stance. What? Why you're going to pollinate me? She asks, looking all red and flustered.
Let's enjoy breakfast. I brought cookies from Castillo. Who wants cookies?
Rosemi looks at Blair, confused. It certainly isn't the reaction she was expecting. She takes a step closer but is clearly still in a defensive stance, mostly defending her roses and just the roses. I'm sorry about that. I'm a little bit sensitive about my roses. It's not every day that someone asks to see my roses. And most of the time, people would just pluck it to see how it would feel. Rosemi says with a restricted smile on her face.
Just don't put your roses in places you should not be, and you will be fine and blooming. If you were my friend, I would deal quickly with anyone trying to put their hands on you. Some men just think that because I look at them and smile, they own you. Anyway, cookies?
Rosemi reaches out for a cookie, but she pauses right before she grabs one. If we're not friends? She said in a sad tone. She knows they just met, and maybe calling each other friends already might be too much, but that's how Rosemi feels.
Sorry, bud, I just met you. You look complicated, which I admire. But I'm afraid you might die if you smash your head against the wall. I'm afraid this whole plan of yours will end in all of you dying. Wizard King will wash his stables with your innards. Don't become simple-minded. I know certain people. They pay, have a nice life and less worries, and a life full of adventures, not the boring ones, thrilling.
The imaginary sound of shattering glass is heard in Rosemi's airy head from this rejection. The worst she could say is no can't even compare to this. The very dejected Rosemi just suddenly rolls her eyes up with her spirit being broken from the emotional damage caused by the rejection, so much so that she didn't even pay attention to what was said after that. Selective hearing, perhaps. One's way of coping with the situation. After a short moment, she recovers from the damage and turns around to walk back into the tent. I think I'll go get my tea set to make some tea for that cookie.
Emotional damage.
Blair sighs and, with a sad look, starts to eat a cookie.
After Rosemi gets out of sight from Blair, she starts a rampage of tantrums inside the tent. Can you believe that, Buta? Not friends, she said. After the girls' night we had, after we shared tents and beds. Oh, I am going to show that Buta who's boss, the one and only coolest genius Rosemi Salma, because I am number 1. Rosemi shouts, obviously just talking to herself. She grabs her teapot from her bag and, after filling it with some water, sets it on the camp to boil it. Give me 10 minutes! I'll show you! The distant Rosemi shouts angrily at Blair. While waiting for the teapot to boil, Rosemi wanders off back to the Magitech soldiers to make another attempt at understanding how they work.
That's unfair.
What is?
She doesn't know you are Victoria.
I plan to reveal it, but I'm still finding the right timing. Nobody actually wondered why she's late. They just assumed she was busy licking walls. 15 automatic failure on Magitech check. Yay, 50 EXP.
Once a fair distance from the party, Noela kneels across from Elio. As she sets out proper prayer tools, she says quietly, I don't trust Blair at all. And I don't trust Vito now, either. He told her everything. If she is some servant of Lave, she might just sneak away and tell him everything.
Elio kneels as well. If he said that instead of talking about the bite, then there may be a reason for it. Maybe he has a plan and just didn't tell us. Or maybe he is just already charmed or just desperate looking for love. He says, trying to think about the situation. We have known him for so long. I really want to believe he will do the right thing. He looks down for a moment and then looks to Nuela with an emotion he barely shows. Sadness. What should we do?
We keep an eye on both of them. We also try and make sure they aren't alone together if we can avoid it. Next battle we are in, I plan to cast some anti-undead blessings, and we can see how she reacts. Unless you have a different idea.
Vampires are barbarous.
I think priests also have anti-barbarous spells too.
Sounds good.
No, I don't. I think that's the better way to handle the situation. Elio replies, trusting Nuela on this plan. Let's be cautious, as I think she may try something soon enough.
She nods. I think so as well. Nuela takes Elio's hand in hers. I want you to know that I will always have your back.
You don't have to tell me. For that, I know. He pauses before going. And I have yours too.
Hey, is it just me, or has Ginger and Hornsey always been this chummy with each other?
Vito's gate imp comments. Vito himself is too busy looking at Blair's cookies to notice the question. You made these? The alchemist asks Blair.
No, I've bought them in the store.
20 for detect check on cookies.
Vito thinks she is not lying, and that Blair is a bit sad.
Is my water boiling yet for the tea?
Sure.
Rosemi comes back, riding her skybike with a teapot in her hand. Yeah! Blair! She dashes toward Blair's direction and stops just right in front of her. Put that cookie down, she said to Vito. What am I, stupid? She asked and paused for a while. Of course, we aren't going to have cookies without tea. Rosemi then shows them a wide smile before handing out a cup to both Vito and Blair. Okay, check this out, she says with a smirk on her face, saying that she is about to cook something.
Do you have milk at least? Vito asks as he stares at his tea. How am I supposed to dip my cookie in tea?
What milk? I don't have milk. Go ask your girlfriend if she has milk. Rosemi says as if she is implying something, but truthfully, she actually doesn't know. She has cookies, maybe surely she has milk too? Rosemi then begins plucking some petals from her rose and adds them to the cup. All right, here we go. Check this out. Rosemi then revs the bike's engine and aims for a nearby tree. BRRR, BRRR. Bark, 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 woof, woof. A woo, bark, bark, grr. Rosemi barks, showing that she has that dog in her, though she sounds more like a chihuahua than an actual dog. Should I make a riding check to see if I'm going to perform some tricks?
This you can decide on your own if they are just doing it for your own sake.
15 for riding check. As Rosemi let go of the brakes, she went neuming towards the tree, but with her skybike, she was able to manipulate the bike vertically, causing it to fly, and it looked like she just wall-ridden the tree. As she goes into the air, she grabs her hot teapot and starts pouring it into the cup's midair. Or, at least, attempt to. Yo, check this out! She shouts as she does her best attempt to impress Blair with her coolness.
Let's continue with ruins, shall we? That's scary.
No, it's cool! Rosemi replies back as she slowly descends back to the ground, but while at it, she performs this very lame and slow backflip with the bike. It's another attempt to look cool, but clearly, she's trying to be safe. Tea is served, now you can have your cookie, she says before getting off the bike and making a bow.
Rosemi gets a Sword's Grace bonus due to her roleplay.
I don't know why, but I felt like that display was enjoyed by someone. Vito says before dipping his cookie in tea. This doesn't feel right. He mutters as he puts it in his mouth.
Oh, you don't have to be shy. Just say you liked it. Rosemi jests as she gently jabs her elbow at Vito. Look, Blair, I know our goals don't align with each other, but we don't have to be allies. We just have to be friends, right? Rosemi says as she extends her hand toward Blair for a handshake. She has this huge smile on her face.
She looks confused by Rosemi's sudden mood swings. So sure?
You don't even know how to shake hands? You really are an awkward one, huh? Rosemi comments as she reaches for Blair's hand and holds it. So we hold hands like this and... Rosemi then begins to blush and averts her gaze at the mention of holding hands. Shake it!
She holds Rosemi's hand and shakes it, nostalgic in a way.
Rosemi immediately pulls away as the handshake is done. She rides her bike and begins heading towards the ruins. Okay, we're friends now. The last one to the ruins washes my teapots. Rosemi shouts, hiding her embarrassment.
Vito pats Blair on the back. Don't mind Rose and me too much. That's just the kind of person she is. He says between bites of the tea-dipped cookies. But what did you mean by nostalgic, by the way?
I will tell you if you don't get stuck washing teapot. She smiles and runs to the ruins.
They really just left me here. With a scratch to his head, he sighs and starts cleaning up the place.
So when should I expect the marriage invite?
His gate imp gives him a teasing eye, using her black wings to mimic a wedding dress. Shut up and help me already, Vito responds.
So now Rosemi and Blair are at the ruins, Vito is eating, and Nuela and Elio are at the side.
Nuela nods to Elio, a shy smile on her lips. After their prayers, as they prepare to return to the others, Nuela says, Elio, are you seeing anyone?
Elio stops in his tracks because of the sudden question. Seeing anyone? Oh no, not really. I have been so focused on training since I joined the temple that I haven't paid much attention. He pauses for a bit. I feel really weak, to be honest. No matter how much I train, there is always someone stronger, so I would like to be strong enough to protect the people I care for. But anyway, how about you? Anyone you like? He asks.
But you are so strong already. No one expects you to be able to take an army down by yourself. You are too hard on yourself. She blushes a bit and pushes her hair back behind her ear. Honestly, I've fancied someone I've known for several years now. But I don't think they really notice me.
Thanks, but physical strength will only take me so far. Like you saw how I barely could fight against the dragon yesterday. I was basically a practice target the whole time. He pauses for a moment. To be honest, I'm kind of envious of you. You are smart, strong, kind, and beautiful. You always shine no matter the place or situation. Something Soleils like me would wish to be. He goes silent for a bit, thinking about the person Nuela may like. I don't know who you may like, but they would be happy. No, they should be happy someone like you thinks of them like that. And I can say I'm kind of envious of them as well. He finishes with that as he goes to where the others are and notices a lone Vito packing things up. Wait, where are the others?
Hear Elio's words. Nuela's face burns a crimson red. She can't help herself as she closes her eyes and leans in to finally kiss the boy she has had feelings for since the first time they met. Only to be stopped dead in her tracks by his last remark. Opening her eyes as she realizes the rest are gone, but even worse, he had turned away before she tried to kiss him. Damn him for being so concerned for others all the time. Overwhelmed by embarrassment, she immediately focuses on the issue at hand. Vito, she shouts, where is everyone?
They ditched me to go to the cave. He murmurs in annoyance as he's packing up the tea set he was left with. Blair's out of the range of my barrier, so this is a good chance to talk while she's not around. But first things first. He tilts his head to the cave. I doubt she'd act so brazen, but someone should head there and make sure Blair doesn't bite Rosemeat.
I think it's better if you give us your ideas first. I kind of expected you to have a plan, he tells Vito, then looks at the cave and back to Vito. Also, I think it may be better if we all stick close together this time. I wouldn't want any of you to be in danger. He pauses for a bit, sighs and says, and we may need to save Rosemi if she is in danger right now.
All right then. This'll be quick. Blair isn't a spy. Vito starts as he finally finishes getting everything in his bag. She's an assassin, and it's a waste of time to fight her now. And really, she won't pounce until we attack her, or it's an emergency. So until then, she'll be friendly. He looks up from his bag and at Elio and Nuela. Can you two try to be friendly back, at least until she starts running out of mana? With his packing done properly, he starts walking to the cave to catch up with Blair.
Nuela's eyes widen in horror. Damn it, I knew it. She looks between the two, then takes a deep breath. Yeah, I think I can pretend. But if she makes a single wrong move, I won't wait for her mana to run out.
Yeah, let's try not to be suspicious, he says as he goes to the cave. But just saying her being an assassin and not a spy doesn't make it better. Nor does it mean she couldn't be a spy after all.
I'm not going into the semantics on that. The point is that she won't leave us alone. And with that, Vito starts walking towards the dragon's nest.
Rosemi, roll notice check for me.
2, automatic failure. She is too busy licking walls.
24 and 25. Rosemi, please roll again.
8 for notice check.
When finding more walls to lick, Rosemi notices Blair, who sits near the nest of the dragon in the center of the cave and looks like casting a spell.
Would being out of sight enough to dodge it if it's a damaging spell?
She is not looking at you. It looks like this is a spell targeted at the nest, and since you are not a sorcerer or conjurer, you have no idea what the nature of this spell is.
Would it be possible to get very close to her?
Do you want to get closer? As I understand, you are not hiding. You want to just come quickly. You can.
I actually don't know what I want yet. I'm just gauging my options. Would it be possible to cancel it if I get close and drag her to the ruins?
No, it doesn't have cast time. It's not like a 1-hour ritual. She just casts a few spells one after another.
Blair, hurry up! You will miss all the cool stuff. Rosemi shouts as she begins heading deeper toward the ruins.
It is all one large room, so I assume you are calling her to one of the walls.
What is it, Rosemi? Blair looks at Rosemi's direction, still in her thoughts. Then she starts walking towards Rosemi.
So there's nothing yet so far? No other Magitech stuffs?
What were you expecting? Nothing else noticeable is happenings or happened so far.
Just kinda waiting for everyone else to start checking out the cave.
Actually, nothing has come up yet, but when I see something, I want to see it together with you. We'll make great discoveries together. Rosemi says to Blair as she throws her hands in the air to celebrate something that hasn't happened yet.
Rosemi, roll willpower versus her detect check to lie successfully. This is too suspicious.
She's not particularly lying, though. 22.
But she was ready to stop her casting if she cast for 10 seconds more. This is not a lighthearted mood, which she attempts to show.
No, it's just me, as a player, gauging the possibilities, not actually Rosemi's intent.
Like if I was saying, it's a wonderful day. GM, can I kill my mother with my sword? I can, nice. Oh, this is nothing, just thinking about my good-hearted adventurer.
LOL.
23 on detect check. I'm all for great discoveries, Rosemi. Blair starts laughing loudly and comes closer to one wall and licks it slowly and openly.
But that's where I licked. Rosemi says shyly before slowly shrinking down due to the embarrassment of thinking that it was an indirect kiss. She ends up covering her face.
Tasty. What else do you find here?
Dies.
Blair's really pushing into the Yuri route, but unfortunately for her, Rosemi isn't as desperate as Vito.
She is having fun in her way, and this is a fun way to provoke as a GM, kinda similar to what Rosemi does, but in a totally different direction.
Ha! Rosemi says as she recovers. She just stood there with her eyes and mouth wide open and smiled. It's clear that she is very shocked, and her brain has short-circuited. She does not know how to react to this advancement. With this, her defense mechanism started kicking in and making sense of the situation. Perhaps Blair thinks that the old walls are as cool as she thinks they are. Yes, she's not going to think of it anymore and leave it as is. Whoa, you think these old walls are cool too? Huh. The crumblier and older it is, the more you want to lick it, right? Kinda like opening a dusty old book and sniffing it.
Yeah, they are cool. This one tasted nice.
You three come to the lair just when Blair and Rosemi discuss walls and their licking.
Vito blinks at the sight with a gaping mouth. He expected this from Rosemi, but he could only give a judgmental stare at Blair for somehow being convinced to lick a wall.
Wowee.
Vito's gate imp flies around Blair in a circle.
Didn't know wall lickers can multiply.
What does it taste like? Nuela asks after trying to understand what she is seeing.
He is surprised by the conversation between them and says, I thought only Marius did this. And as soon as Nuela asks her question, he starts doubting his own sanity. Am I the weird one here? Does everyone lick walls?
Oh, I just learned the best investigation techniques from you. But if by being weird you mean keeping distance from me, then yes, Elio, you are weird. You are missing the time of your life. Blair laughs a bit. I'm just joking. So what is the plan?
Rosemi crosses her arms and stands proudly with a very proud expression on her face.
He looked annoyed for a moment, for he didn't like that joke, nor the smug face on Rosemi, but he had to continue with the plan, so he dropped the topic and went back to the question. The plan is to search the cave, looking for any entrance that could go further into the ruins, he said in a serious tone. We don't have much info on the ruins besides what the goal is, so we have to be prepared for anything.
Will there be a map of the ruins?
No, it's just one big room without any passageways. As stated before.
That's even better, and I thought that was just the dragon using the ruins entrance as a nest, not the whole ruins.
Wait, why are we here? Rosemi asks with a clueless look on her face. Are we going to fix these soldiers and use it to make an army?
There was supposed to be a dragon-like golem on these ruins that we could use, he replies to Rosemi. But from what I'm seeing, there is not much place to hide something like that here, nor there are any new paths besides the exit solo. I'm kind of lost on what to do. He looks back at the Vito and Nuela. Any ideas?
If you want to investigate, you can roll search checks, target number 18, or insight checks, target number 20, to remember about this place.
21 for insight check.
Vito, with his keen sage skills, discerns that the structure of the hemisphere can be opened. As he examines the floor, he deduces that there might be a hidden large space underneath that can be opened somehow.
We're on some sort of air-based port. Vito explains, pointing to the dome. Dome here's supposed to open up at the same time as the floor here. They open up and let whatever's docked here out to the skies.
So, the golem is below us. How do we open it?
I don't know. He starts looking around. Anyone see any convenient-looking switches lying about?
I'd be careful if I were you guys. You don't know when these offline soldiers might activate. It might be a security thingy. So don't press anything, says Rosemi, totally not because she wants to be the one to push random buttons.
24 for search check. Nuela examines the walls and floors.
After examining the lair, you spot the Magitech control panel in the dragon's nest. It looks functional as it is lit. Someone with Artificer can use it to operate the hemisphere and the floor. Roll Artificer plus int.
Look, flat this thing, Rosemi.
22 on Artificer check. Rosemi came excitedly and started pressing random buttons. Oh, what does this button do?
Rosemi, after miraculously starting the basic procedures, discovers that the panel is blocked and in red alert mode. However, using her skills of randomly pressing buttons, she manages to overcome it. Suddenly, a pop-up window appears, displaying the message Enhanced Red Alert, Hacker Identified, activating defense mechanisms in Magitech. The siren quietly begins to sound from only 2 out of 100 working speakers across the hemisphere. Initially seeming harmless, the ground suddenly shakes, and a skyship with red lights all around it emerges from below, where the Magitech soldiers are standing. It turns out that they were standing not just on a grid, but in a grid container. Now, this skyship with many more speakers is ready to attack you all, along with all 32 Magitech soldiers. Roll initiative N33. Joking, just 4 monster knowledge checks. Combat.
I was gonna ask if I could cast Prism Effect on everyone, but I saw the mana cost, so never mind, lol. Would it be possible to disable the alarm through a disable device check?
It will not help.
Okay, I will roll my monster knowledge checks then, but reminded that I can't detect weakness with Rider. 16, 17, 18, and 18 for monster knowledge checks.
17, 19, 24, and 20 for monster knowledge checks.
You identify all the enemies. 1 skyship, 6 star snipers, and 2 aerodooms, which Vito spot their weakness, and 24 ring guards. Please roll initiative.
24 for initiative.
You go first.
Oh, I think I pressed too many random buttons, teehee. Rosemi says, sounding quite nervous.
Darn you, Rosemeat! Vito panically points his card shooter at himself and fires a green beam that turns into a protective mist that surrounds him. Now we need to fight. Wait. He pauses in thought. If we destroy all the guards, can we keep it?
Hell yeah, that ship is ours.
Good job, Rosemary. I can kiss you. Vito changed his tune faster than a rock tumbling off a cliff. But I won't, because your mouth is filled with dust and I'm afraid that wall licking might be infectious. He quickly adds without missing a beat.
I wouldn't want to kiss your filthy mouth anyway. Don't you know your imp sneaks licks on it while you're sleeping? Rosemi banters back.
Player's turn? Are you done with prep?
Oh yeah, spending 1 S-rank green card to give myself +4 defense using bark mail.
Activates Cat's Eye, Beetle Skin, and Gazelle Feet.
Player's turn.
Sanguis, Tertium Creatio, Instant, Serva, Creatio, Tempus, Perectio. Blair waves her hands around a lump of iron she has in her hands, and it comes to life. That's her turn, but golems or undead take their turn immediately after the creator's turn. Iron Golem, with 5 enhancing items, uses cover 2 on Blair and ends its turn. Scary! Rosemi! She screams, seemingly in panic.
Rosemi, genius! Kawaii, #1! Rosemi follows with her own made-up chant after hearing Blair. Rosemi shifts herself forward and casts Unchained Bomb and hurls it at the ship. Hoi! At the same time, she turns on the speakers on her skybike and starts blasting some music using sound recorder. Are you ready? Take it! Nail it! Get it! 21 for spell check. Make you hypnotize me. I'm a potion Renaud bottle filled by my emotions. Rosemi sings as the bomb explodes on the enemies.
4 of the star snipers and 1 of the aerodoom chassis lose targeting for 18 rounds. The rest didn't have it or were unaffected by the bomb.
Is my large Magisphere unusable?
No, it can be used.
Don't worry, Sunshine. Seeing Blair, probably fake, panicking, Vito speaks confidently. We can win this. Just trust us. Mirage Dace, he says as he fires a card each of the Doom's chassis. 2 S-rank white cards for Mirage Days. 22 for evocation check against willpower. They detonate and surround their senses in a white mist. At the very least, I'll patch you up if you're hurt.
Doom's chassis has -4 accuracy for 6 rounds.
I guess it's my turn now.
Vito's gate imp seems worried at all the Magitech, but faithfully transforms into a gate. The warlock starts chanting demonic. Knight of Shadows, heed my name, heed my call, and heed my fury. I order you onto this plane. Dark Bully! And with that, a creature best described as living a shadow with claws for arms crawls out of the gate. Dark Bully, a lovely lady is watching us, so let's make this one count. With dark particles dissipating around him, Vito takes the opportunity to smile and wink at Blair.
Okay, boss, now you're just trying too hard.
His gate imp audibly sighs while in gate form. 5 for the demon action chart. Dark Bully strikes at one of the star snipers. 18 physical damage.
53 HP left.
He is surprised by the number of enemies, to the point he thinks just for a moment that maybe, just maybe, he should have prayed to Lulode just for luck. He then thinks of his options as he sees the enemy, his companions, and that spy, and then decides his plan of action. He takes 2 Mako stones he had in his bag, 9 MP each, and the puzzling sign and leaves them on the ground, then tells Nuela, use them if you need to, and then prepares. He uses his enhancement techniques just as usual, bear muscle, cat eyes, gazelle feet, giant arms, and goes after the enemy. His aim is one of the 2 sniper soldiers that weren't affected by Rosami's bomb. As he gets closer, he takes his heavy axes, 1 on each hand, and then prepares each with a different feat, using the school secrets he knows, aimed attack 2, lethal strike 3, double-handed cut, and goes after one of the snipers, Star Sniper A, with 2 hits. 23 and 21 accuracy for a first and second hit. 5 and 8 for 25 and 29 physical damage, so 46 applied.
Star Sniper A has 21 HP left.
She runs to Elio's aid, attacking the same target. 23 for accuracy. 9 crit. 4 for 40 physical damage.
Star Sniper A is destroyed.
Nuela leaps up on the boat and stabs the automaton that Elio had already struck, driving it into the thing's eye. The Magitech creature sparks and sizzles before falling backward. As we got the initiative, she acts again, striking at the other damaged Star Sniper C with fast action. 27 for accuracy. 9 crit. 9 crit. 9 crit. 7 for 57 physical damage.
Star Sniper C is destroyed.
Then, as she drops, she takes the legs out from under another one. As it falls, as she sets her dagger on the deck and lets the soldier fall, impaling its chest as it hits the deck.
Enemy turn. As the fight began, a few soldiers fell from the get-go, making the whole mechanical army retaliate. A barrage of bullets flew in the direction of Elio and Nuela, shot by the flying doom machines. They barely evaded most hits, but one hit Elio directly in the arm. Sadly for him, he didn't have time to reel in pain as the Rengards followed with a linked attack directed at them, forming small groups of 5 and 4. Lucky for them, though, they were more agile than those linked bots would ever be, even with the injury, evading their attempt. 20 magic damage at Elio.
17 with resistance, so 46 HP left for me.
Meanwhile, all the remaining Star Snipers prepared, getting in position to shot at Rosemi with deadly accuracy.
Kill the interloper.
They said in unison in Magitech. They used aimed shot for the next turn, so no rolling evasion for now, Rosemi. Player's turn.
Nuela winks at Elio before moving in close so they can attack together. She goes for the next Sniper D. 28 for accuracy. 7 for 37 physical damage.
Star Sniper D has 34 HP left.
I'm coming. Blair makes a full move closer to the ship, and Iron Golem follows, using cover 2 on her.
Rosemi will do a normal move and get behind the golem as well. You'll only know inside me, lonely, lonely, lonely. It's eroding now, to you slowly, slowly. Rosemi sings as she gleefully makes her way to Blair with her music still blasting.
Hums along.
Spending 2 MP to cast Recommand and activating Unveiling the Beyond. Was recording that song? Why were you late? Vito shouts from where he was before chanting a spell. Binding Chains, Titan. Recommand. 2 on Demon Action Chart. 4 with Recommand. Dark Bully attacks at Star Sniper E. 20 physical damage to it.
51 HP left.
Nice moves, he says to Nuela, trying to keep a smile even with the pain from the shot he just took. He takes a deep breath, trying to recover some of his lost health, recovery, and then goes after the sniper Nuela hit before, Star Sniper D. Using the same techniques as before, aimed attack 2. Lethal strike 3, double-handed cut. 25 and 21 for both accuracies. 7 and 8 for 21 and 29 physical damage, 42 applied. Recovers 6 HP, 52 HP.
Star Sniper D is destroyed. Enemy turn. Losing their target from sight, the snipers choose to aim at the closest enemy, Elio. Shooting at him with their regular, not-so-deadly accuracy, but still, this wasn't enough to hit the nimble yet wounded Soleil. At the same time, the Dooms decided to focus on Nuela and Blair, shooting at them with their machine guns. Nuela avoided all shots by pure agility, and Blair was protected by her Iron Golem, who took all damage to itself. 24, 16, and 15 magic damage to the Iron Golem, right side. 50 HP left. As this happens, the Ringards suddenly stopped and then started gathering in 2 groups of 12. As the groups were formed, they linked with each other to form 2 huge Magitech robots, the Lemugurums. Player's turn.
I won't lie, that was really cool. Vito gushes at the Legumarin, begrudgingly considering they're still trying to kill him and his friends.
Elio tries to hide his interest in the enemy transformation, failing as he makes the face a child with a new toy would have. Let's get rid of the snipers fast. I want a PLA, fight the big ones, he says to Nuela, trying to keep the usual smile. He attacks the wounded sniper, Start Sniper E, with his usual strategy, aimed attack 2, lethal strike 3, double-handed cut. 23 and 26 for accuracy. 6 and 6, 427 physical damage on each hit, 46 applied damage.
Star Sniper E has 5 HP left.
Sanguis, Undecimus Ordo, Illusio, Occultatio, Secretum. Sneak. 25 on spell check, Blair vanishes from Magitech view. Golem, kill the big Magitech. Iron Golem moves and attacks Legumarin. A 22 for right fist accuracy and 18 for left fist accuracy. Both miss.
Rosemi gives Blair a real genuine smile in her direction. Even despite this danger, she is just happy, mostly because she is experiencing such things with her friends. Break it, break it, break it, now! In your brain, make you all insane, going round and round and round, make it rain. All the things that are vain makes me shouting, She then brings out 2 shiny pieces of Derringer aimed at Dumai's wing before casting Laser Bullet. 21 for accuracy on the first hit. 10 crit. 5 for 30 magical damage. 24 for accuracy on the second hit. 6 for 22 magical damage, 52 total.
3 HP left.
Vito is beginning to hum the song Rosemi's broadcasting as he moves forward a little and aims his card shooter at his demon. S-rank card, Vorpal Sword. A red misty beam shoots out and envelopes the claws of the demon. All right, now let's hope this works. He then starts chanting in Demonic. 24, automatic success. For spellcasting check, twice within a single breath, an unholy harmony. Splinter! He shouts out, and within a blink of an eye, there were 2 dark bullies in the fight. 6 and 3 for both demon actions charts. The intrusive thought won. I'm re-rolling the 3. 3 figures. One of the dark bullies attacks at the Star Sniper E19 physical damage.
Star Sniper E is destroyed.
The other will attack the Arrow Doom, A Wing A, 23 physical damage.
Arrow Doom A, Wing A has 0 HP.
She leads to attack Sniper B. 22 for accuracy. 10 crit. 7 for 45 physical damage. She twirls in the air, hitting the sniper's chest in a corkscrew attack.
26 HP left. Enemy turn. The Dooms changed their target due to the sudden aggression. The one missing a wing shot at Vito with the machine gun as the main battery reloaded, hitting him directly. The other aimed its guns at Rosemi, who, by luck and dexterity, avoided both hits, deflecting one of the shots with her gun in midair. The two remaining snipers aimed directly at Nuela, waiting with deadly precision. Meanwhile, the two Lemigrams linked with each other on a dual attack against Elio, who avoided the hit perfectly. 20 magic damage at Vito. Player's turn.
Sanguis, Decimus Ordo Impetum, Frigus, Nyx, Ventus. Blair casts Blizzard with meta-magic accuracy. Oh, I cannot control this spell to make it as powerful, sorry. She smiles. As well, all Magitech roll willpower. As Iron Golem pummels the Arrow Doom's wing, Blair unleashes Blizzard on the whole ship and everyone on it.
In the end, Blair's Blizzard did significant damage to multiple targets. The spell, cast with metamagic accuracy, affected various enemies including Iron Golems, Star Snipers, Arrow Dooms, and Legumorans. The damage ranged from 18 to 25 points, with one automatic failure against the Iron Golem right. The spell's impact left most targets with reduced HP, notably leaving Star Sniper be critically damaged at 6 HP.
25 for willpower, damn.
23 magic damage to Elio.
-3 from armor, so 20, 32 HP left.
20, big surprise. Nuela grunts in pain and betrayal. Vito. She shouts, her voice full of recrimination.
24 magic damage to Nuela.
I just covered most of the Magitech. You will be fine, I'm sure. It was just a necessary measure to win.
Vito, we need some assistance here.
Don't worry, Blair. You did great. It hurt him more than it hurt us. He loads his card shooter and fires it at the sky. I think healing spray and a soothing rain of green surrounded his friends. 23 for evocation check. 3 S-rank green cards for healing spray on Vito, Elio, and Nuela, healing 20 HP.
Rosemi, in an attempt to look cool in front of Blair, tosses her used-up gun, discarding it as if she no longer has a need for it before pulling out a brand new gun, a bullet shower. Voices up on my head. Every night in my bed, it stung sharply. Will you look in my eyes? Will you smile and don't cry? Will you stay by my side tonight? Rosemi continues to sing. Her voice starts to get high-pitched from excitement as she nears the chorus. Rosemi casts Laser Bullet X2 on her ricochet bullets, all aimed at Dume's chassis. Seemingly at first, her bullets seemed to miss the target, but just as everyone thought, her bullet suddenly bounced its way toward her target. Rosemi uses her school secret, Ricochet. 24 and 22 for accuracy. 9 and 12 crit. 8 for 29 and 38 magic damage.
Arrow Doom A is destroyed. It just reloaded. Sad.
Rosemi discards another one of her shiny derringers once she finishes unloading all of its magazines. She drops it like it is hot, which literally is just after firing lasers.
That's what I'm talking about. Elio praises Vito and Rosemi's support from the back. He takes a breath again to heal his remaining injuries and to get back some strength, using one of his Mako stones as a resource, recovery, giant arms. Then proceeds to attack one of the snipers, Star Sniper F, using his usual method, aimed attack 2, lethal strike 3, double-handed cut. 23 and 22 for accuracy checks. 6 and 7 for 27 and 28 physical damage, 47 applied. Recovers 6 HP, 58 HP.
Star Sniper F is destroyed.
She runs along the guardrail of the boat, dodging fire, before leaping at the Doom Arrow A wing that remains with her glowing knife. 24 for accuracy. 10 crit. 6 for 44 physical damage.
Arrow Doom A is destroyed. Enemy turn. The remaining and barely functioning Arrow Doom changed its objective and shot at Blair. With no cover from the golem, she had to avoid the barrage on her own. She did it effortlessly, making the lie even more apparent to everyone. All the while, the last sniper and the linked Lemigrams attacked simultaneously at Elio, who evaded just as easily as she had. Player's turn.
He looks at the remaining enemy forces and then takes a deep sigh. Let's get this over with, he says as he prepares his battle stance. Aimed attack 2, lethal strike 3, double-handed cut, and goes after the big bot, Legumerine A. 24 and 19, misses the second hit. 7 for 28 physical damage. I'm getting tired of these machines, he complains, though not knowing if it is directed to the creators of these things or the machines themselves.
Legumerine A has 38 HP left.
No worries, I'll help, Nuela says as she leaps past Elio to stab the Legumerine A. 22 for accuracy. But her angle is off, perhaps because she was too busy winking at Elio.
Rosemi pulls out another bullet shower and discards one of her empty guns again. This time, she forms an X with her arms as she taps her foot on her bike, following the beat of the song. Blackout! I'll cast a spell, can't delete me. Blackout! Watch out, I'll be shining like a mirror. Blackout! A kiss through the screen, 'cause I love you. Rosemi then winks and does a flying kiss gesture before continuing to sing. Blackout! Can't run from me, do you not like it? Rosemi casts Laser Bullet X2 on 2 normal bullets and Cat's Eyes, aiming for Doom B's chassis. 22 and 27 for accuracy. 7 and 6 for 27 and 26 magic damage, 53 total.
Arrow Doombee is destroyed.
Gonna roll the first demon action first. 1. I'm canceling that action. That was embarrassing. Vito had to spend mana to restrain his demon for a second. Blair, are you casting another one of those spells? He asked his kind of girlfriend.
Blair smiles. Yeah, one of those. Sanguis, nonum gradum oppugnare, electrica vi, slamming, tonitrua. 3-shot lightning with meta magic accuracy targeting Rosemi, Nuela, and Vito. Elio should roll 1d on 1 to 3, and he will also be hit. 24 and 25, going with target number 25.
Blair knows when to strike and when you are most distracted.
Vito's a lot more comfortable flirting with a girl who's trying to kill him. Probably says something more about him than anyone else. So would she be moved to enemy in it afterward, or stick to being in our turns? Or would she have her own turn?
Yeah, sure, she will act again on the enemy turn. But she will skip the next enemy turn, to be fair.
Thanks. I really don't think we can handle another one of her spells right now.
3, yep, I'm hit. 21, and full power, 2.
4 for 20 lightning magic damage.
17 with magic resistance. I'm at 41 HP.
6, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 1. Iron Golem and both Legumerine are hit. For 18 magic damage to Golem right. 11 for 25 magic damage to Golem left. 3 for 17 magic damage to Legumerine A. 7 for 21 magic damage to Legumerine B. And to speed it up, Iron Golem will hit Elio. 2 evasion.
23 and 29.
Both hits miss.
22.
7 for 21 lightning magic damage to Nuela.
She pops a Guardian Stone to absorb 2 points of that.
24.
5 for 19 lightning magic damage to Rosemi.
15.
11 crit. 4 for 27 lightning magic damage.
Ouch. But I live. I'm spending 4A rank green cards to heal everyone by 10. 19 for evocation, check 4 on the demon action chart again. 19 physical damage against the last Star Sniper.
Star Sniper B is destroyed.
So this is the timing you're going with, huh? Vito nearly had a literal heart attack from the lightning, but he managed to keep his cool enough to quip at Blair in Nosferatu. Not too bad, a little threatening, and even gets you a nice little reward after. I like smart women. He gives her a cocky smile as he fires another healing spray into the air as his demon takes down the last robot javelin thrower.
Oh boy, that was fun. You will miss my company soon enough, she answers in Nosferatu.
Feelings mutual, but I won't bet on it, little sunshine. He shakes his head.
Enemy turn. As the facade was over, Blair had stepped out of danger, leaving Rosemi unprotected against the Arrow Doom retaliation. The Doom had shot at Rosemi, who, with her impressive acrobatic skills, had been able to avoid one of the shots while shooting down the second with her gun. At the same time, the Legumeran had changed target to Nuela, who had been able to roll away from danger due to the momentum of being stabbed in the back. Player's turn.
Guys, hear me out. If I summon a mana bike on top of Blair, it will do 150 physical damage, considering I can fly 50 meters up. And I've always wanted to do this. It's the right time since I'm by her too.
She can block your movement as you can hers.
Not if I use high-speed retreat.
It would take 2 turns, right?
Oh no. I'm right by her already. Same area. I don't know the exact rules for flying, but I should be at a certain height already. By the way, this will be me summoning a new mount via Artificer spell, not dropping the current one I use.
Okay, it will be similar to the bullet spell. Your Artificer spellcasting versus evasion. On hit, Blair will take fall damage minus her tumble check, and Mount will take full fall damage. On fail, just Mount will take fall damage.
Let's go!
But again, it requires 2 turns. You cannot cast spells with Mount doing more than a limited move.
It's okay. I'll take my chances at making it happen.
We just have to survive for now. Hopefully it will go well.
I've been waiting for 2 whole scenarios for this.
Wait, if Blair walks up to Vito, he's an easy hit and charm.
It's okay. If it ever comes to it, I'll just crash my bike on both of you. You will be buried with her just like you wanted.
Honestly, the idea of Vito going down with her as collateral is funny.
Yeah, and Rosemi will turn whatever remains. You guys will have to plant fertilizer.
Here lies Vito. He never scored.
Got blocked by Nuela.
To be fair, this seems more like a team effort.
Fair. I did separate her from you. I'm not sorry, though. Rosemi is angry, upset for falling the easiest bamboozle ever. For this betrayal, Rosemi prepares to use her signature move that she hasn't shown to anyone yet. She spends the turn preparing for it. Don't look! Close your eyes. Just feel me. She sings in a soft and melancholic voice, almost like a whisper but audible.
17. Spellcasting for evil silhouette. Seriously, what's with my rolls lately? 18. Evocation check on Blair as minor action. Spend 1 S rank green card for paralyzed mist. I'll be Blair. I think you're right. Darn pissed off Rose and me. Never seen her like that before. Vito comments as he walks slowly and chants in demonic. From beyond phantasmal depths I call upon you, my greatest of minions. And summons a mighty winged demon in front of him. I guess it's high time I start taking this seriously too. With that, he points his gun at Blair with a twirl and shoots a white ray that creates a sedative cloud in front of her. Eat my paralyzed mist, sweetheart.
27 for willpower, only 1 round.
What's up with my luck? But yeah, I guess that's my turn. Demon time. 6 on the demon action chart. Okay. I think I can use Unveiling the Beyond here since it doesn't mention any timing. 20 plus 2 success value on Wing B. I have -2 on evasion for a while, though. 19, 18, and 18 physical damage.
Arrow Doomby is destroyed.
Attack the Arrow Doom Wing without using Mana Strike, but instead using multi-action. 26 for accuracy. 8 crits. 7 for 31 physical damage. Then I cast Field of Protection on Elio and myself, burning a 5-point Mako stone. 22 for spell check.
Thanks for the help, he says to Nuela for the Field of Protection, then looks back to see the situation on the rearguard. As he sees Rosemi flying around and Vito trying to get behind a summoned demon, he gets a bit worried. We are going to be fine, right? He thinks to himself and then looks to the enemy in front of him. We better finish this soon. He uses the remaining mana on one of his Mako stones to recover his health using his healing breathing technique, Recovery, then proceeds with his usual battle strategy. Hit them until they stop moving, aimed attack 2, lethal strike 3, double-handed cut, aims for Legumerin A. 27 and 21. Misses second hit, sad. 7 for 28 physical damage. Recovers 6 HP, 57 HP.
Legumerin A has 3 HP left. Enemy turn. The last volley of attacks from the security system launched onto the party as only the Arrow Doomwing and the Legumerin remained. Neither of them was able to hit Nuela nor Elio, but the danger didn't stop there as the golem aimed for one last strike at Nuela, but as it missed, it crumbled into pieces as the spell effect ended. 23, detect check. Blair approached Vito as she saw past his bluff summoning. Aiming for his neck, she lunged at him for a bite. Vito, as athletic as he was, wasn't able to evade, but by sheer willpower, was able to suppress her charm.
Vito blushes slightly at the bite, but it isn't anywhere close to overcoming his mental fortitude. You sure your charming bite working there, Missy? You don't look any more prettier than usual to me. He mocks Blair and Nosferatu, hoping it hides his sheer panic at her being right in front of him. He did not plan this well, but he sure as heck ain't gonna say it out loud.
Player's turn.
Rosemi flies along the ceiling, placing herself directly on top of Blair. From this distance, her music can barely be heard.
Rosemi slam time. Trying not to get distracted, he focuses on one of the enemies in front of him, Lemugurum B, and goes for it using his usual strategy. Aimed attack 2, lethal strike 3, double-handed cut. 23 and 21. The second hit misses. Again. 5 for 23 physical damage.
24 HP left.
Let's end this thing. Nuela shouts to Elio and focuses on the Legumerin. 26 for accuracy. 9 crit. 9 crit. 7 for 51 physical damage.
You destroy both Legumerin with one strike.
Realizing Rosemi's plan, Vito stands his ground and fires a quick shot of green mist at Blair. 22 evocation check against Blair. Using my last S-rank green card for paralyzed mist. And then, with that distraction, he starts chanting. Dark winds of the misty veil, blood mist. And out comes a mist of dark red around him. 19 for spell casting check of blood mist.
27 for willpower against Blood Mist. Both work for 1 round only, so -4 evasion.
6 for demon action chart using Unveiling the Beyond for extra accuracy and damage.
18, 15, and 14 for evasion, all hits.
I think you're acquainted with my friend. He taunts in Nosferatu as his demon attacks the weakened sorceress. 19, 16, and 19 for physical damage.
128 HP left. Enemy turn. Blair looks at Vito and his daemon and notices Rosemi on the ceiling. With the Magitech almost defeated and only one half of Arrow Doom still functioning, she clicks her tongue and says quietly,
Looks like Plan B situation. Then she shouts, I hope you're ready for a royal arrival. It was fun, but I'm not a fool. The words drip from her lips with a wicked smile. Sanguis, Tertius Decimus Ordo Transitus, Modus, Spatium, Translatio.
As she finishes, she teleports away. With her gone and the last Doom section malfunctioning, the combat ends, for now. Sorry, this was her plan B, and I was just on a fence when to use it. Hence, she would never go lower than 10 MP plus Mako Stone.
So, she bringing the king here?
Yes.
Fuck.
Time is ticking.
Okay, hear me out, guys. Let me crash the plucking king and Blair with the skyship.
Let's get on the ship first. How many resources do we have left?
I barely have any mana left. Don't you guys have anything to cancel her teleport or something?
Nope. Take my Mako stones on the floor, 18 MP total.
Let's just get to the dragon as fast as possible and skedaddle.
That too. I would like to restore everyone with herbs, but I think it may take too long.
I'm out of green cards, so I'd say we should just be as fast as possible. Vito twirls his card shooter and hosts it with a slight smile. Heh, a girl after my own heart. His gate imp lowers herself next to him.
Boss, I'll say it straight. I'm genuinely worried about your taste in women.
She says as a matter of fact. Rolling his eyes at his own imp, he gestures for her to open her gates. He then reaches into the gate, dark mists the envelope, and enters his body through the pores of his skin. 24 automatic success. For spellcasting check of Soul Eater. Restores 8 MP, banish check -1.
As the enemy retreats and the last machine falls, Elio gets an ominous feeling. I don't like this at all. Then he leaves the boat behind to get his puzzle sign back. Whoever needs some stones, I have a pair to spare.
To get control of a skyship, you need to roll Artificer plus Int, target number 21. You can re-roll, but each attempt will be longer, 1 minute first, 10 minutes, 1 hour, and so on.
Rosemi comes down from the ceiling at full speed. You hear a distant scream getting closer and closer. Blair! I gave you a chance! Her shouting was as cut as she realized that Blair wasn't there anymore. You can see that she was ready to crash her bike at the bitch from that height. Where the pluck is she? She grabs Vito by the scruff and shakes him violently.
I'm assuming back at the castle in Castillo. Vito answers her calmly.
Rosemi lets go of Vito and angrily walks up to the ship. She could have ridden her bike, but she was just too angry to do so. On her way there, she keeps spouting words of anger. I am so going to freaking crash this ship to that little bootah. How dare she take advantage of my feelings? Just like that, she ruffles her sleeves up and slams her fist on the skyship in an attempt to get it to work for her. Work, you piece of junk! 20 for the artificer check. Okay, that doesn't work. It needs a bit of psychology. Rosemi then crouches down and gets her face close to the skyship's panels. You're a useless piece of metal. You're obsolete. You're so trashy. The last time someone needed you was 300 years ago, says Rosemi before attempting to press the power switch for the skyship to see if the positive reinforcement worked. 24 for the second artificer check, 10 minutes.
Works. Now you can control Skyship as a mount.
She immediately begins moving the ship out of the cave, mostly just to get it out of the way so they can search for that metal dragon everyone keeps talking about.
Elio gets closer to Vito and hands him 3 healing potions plus. Use that while I prepare my tools. I bet you need healing and mana the most, but I think we may be too short on time for that. Then goes back to the ship. Hey, you need some recovery? Take these, he says as he passes 2 Mako stones to Rosemi, 9 MP, and another healing potion plus. Then finally he gives Nuela another healing potion plus. Sorry, this is the last I have. Hopefully it should be enough. He then takes out his apothecary tools and says, Okay, who needs some help? Make a line.
I do. Vito says as he starts preparing his banishing ritual, which consists of several offerings already presented to the dark bully he summoned. But I'll be a bit busy here.
Elio used those 10 minutes Rosemi worked on the ship to regain some of his MP with magic seaweed using his apothecary tools. 7 for 13 MP recovery with apothecary tools.
Oh yeah, I'm paying 1,400 gamels worth of offerings to banish my dark bully.
Before Vito can even take a sip from the bottle, Elio takes both healing pots. Here, let me help you. then proceeds to shove each bottle, one at a time, into Vito's mouth and drops them once empty. It won't be as useful unless you do it all at once. He says with a thumbs up and a wide smile, add 16 to the health, 8 per bottle, 6 and 5, for 12 and 11 healing, 23 HP healed back.
She grabs a hold of the banister as the ship rises. Whoa, okay, this is a thing that happened. What do we do now? Ride the ship far away. Is there a hole beneath the ship concealing the dragon? She then uses 2 magic herbs with her own ranger levels. 3 and 7, 4, 5 and 7 MP recovery.
Reminder about the previously blocked panel. Also, 20 minutes have already passed. I will interrupt you after some more passes.
Now that Rosemi got the skyship out of the way, she goes back to the panel and starts tinkering with it, trying to look for the said metal dragon.
Artificer plus in check, target number 15.
26.
I think that's enough. Rosemi gains access to all facility functions. Raised/store Dragon Fortress last used 301 years ago. Open/close dome last used 301 years ago. Activate Guardian Magitech. Last used 10 minutes ago. Which seems to be gray. Evacuation pods last used 300 years ago. Which seems to be gray.
You found anything? Vito asks after being healed, mildly concerned that the party's foremost expert on Magitech might just be mashing buttons.
Rosemi is curious about the gray buttons, and she attempts to press the evacuation pods just to see what happens.
5-1. Rosemi, roll evasion.
16.
An old metallic pod comes from the ground and, without any further rocket boosters, falls right on you in the panel. 7 for 10 physical damage. The panel will also be damaged, unless you shield it from the damage.
I'm definitely shielding the panel.
Then you take 20 physical damage minus defense. So it happens the second roll chose Rosemi as the target.
If the panel gets destroyed, would I be able to fix it by casting a healing Magitech spell?
You don't know.
Not taking the risk then, I'll take the 20 damage. Okay, check this out! Rosemi says confidently as she once presses random buttons just to see what they do. But as she attempts to access the evacuation pod, it just brings more harm than good. Rosemi is about to dodge out of the way, but seeing that the panel is in danger, she shields it from getting damaged. What? Ashka Blackabula Kaka!
You get another sword's grace from this, you know, the +2/+4 thing.
Wrong button, wrong button. She then begins to check her surroundings to see if anyone witnessed this disaster before proceeding to raise the Dragon Fortress as if nothing had just happened. Rosemi, at this time, casts Mana Camera on a large Magisphere that she isn't currently equipped with so she can record this amazing moment.
As Rosemi confidently presses the illuminated button on the control panel, a sense of anticipation fills the air. With a low rumble, the ground begins to tremble beneath her feet. Suddenly, an incredible sight unfolds before her eyes. A colossal dragon fortress emerges majestically from the depths of the earth. Its imposing presence and intricate details leave Rosemi in awe as her Magisphere records the whole process.
Rosemi ain't going to take any chances. While everyone is distracted doing their own things, Rosemi runs up to the Dragon Fortress and gives it one big lick. Wow! It's so metallic! And cool! Rosemi says with excitement in her voice as she jumps up and down in place. Now, how do I get into this thing?
You see a metal door that opens as you come closer. Inside, you find a writer room with panels and screens. Luckily, they are easy to decipher for Artificer. After 10 minutes, Rosemi now has Dragon Fortress under her control, in flight mode. It can fly for the next 1 hour, then it needs to be recharged for 1 month.
Hey, Rosemate! Vito follows behind the Artificer, staring at the dragon with big wide eyes. You think this thing can transform into a knight?
Elio gives the 9 MP Mako Stone to Nuela and prepares to cast. Transfer mana on her gives 7 mana, so 8 MP for cast. Sorry, but this should do for now.
She stops him before he can cast transfer mana. Holding his hand just a little too long, she says, "No, thank you, but you might need it."
Okay, I will save it for now. He then follows Vito inside the ruins. Do you still require some mana, Rico? He couldn't finish his sentence as he saw the draconic machine in front of him. What the hell is that? Is that it? He looks impressed by the size of that thing.
Rosemi finds herself standing on top of the dragon's head. While looking down at the others, she crosses her arms and begins shouting, only because a normal talking voice wouldn't be audible to them. "This is the Dragon Fortress, restored by the one and only genius, the great Rosemi Sama! Oh ho ho!"
Pandora! Vito nods excitedly, patting Rosemi on the back. Pandora, brave king of dragons. That's the perfect name.
Rosemi picks up a rock and throws it at Vito's way to get on her way of naming things.
Ow! He rubs his head and pouts. What? It's a good name. I was complimenting you, Missy.
Just Pandora and nothing else. Now, Alio, I need you to be at the skyship with me. Rosemi commands as she slides downwards the dragon, using its tail as a slide, just like Legolas from Lord of the Rings. Okay, so, guys. We have a choice to mount or not mount this thing. Mounting it will give you +2 accuracy for melee when mounting it and +2 evasion for melee attacks. The con is you have to take major action in cases where you want to be elsewhere. However, me, having a rider class, it will only take me a minor action to mount and dismount. If I recall correctly. Honestly, as much as I want the benefits of mounting it, I have my own mount, too. I think it's better if we all separate so AoE spells don't F us over. Maybe Vito pilots it.
Having the farm boy pilot the robot sounds like a ticket to Stupid Town. But very Star Wars.
Those bonuses are for passengers. You will be mounted. It's a different condition, which just means you will be on it and can act from its coordinates. Same as on Skyship.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but that also means a single AoE attack affects us all. So it's better to spread out, I think.
Honestly, I was thinking of its internal chamber as AoE proof. But you cannot do anything there. And need to spend normal move to go outside. Only can control it from there, like Power Rangers in Megazord.
I see. Okay. So we have the skyship and the dragon. For personal reasons, I'm riding the skyship. GM, can a skybike be parked on the air?
Yes.
Okay, I'm cooking something up.
In a moment, while you were discussing what to do with a Magitech with a whoosh, a figure materializes out of the very fabric of reality itself. Bathed in a luminous aura, the person stands before the Grand Dome, their presence commanding attention. Medium-length black hair cascades down their regal frame, framing a countenance adorned with eyes that exude a fierce intensity. A radiant royal mantle drapes elegantly over their form. Atop their head rests a crown, a majestic symbol of authority akin to the iconic image found on the currency of Castilio. It is none other than August Castilio I, known to you as the Eternal Wizard King Lave, the Nosferatu ruler whose grasp on the kingdom of Castilio remains unyielding. Roll monster knowledge checks, and please specify where you are. Your options: inside the fortress controlling it, cannot be attacked and cannot attack. On the deck of the fortress. On the skyship. On the ground.
17 for monster knowledge. Seriously, what's up with my rolls?
16 for monster knowledge.
You don't know his stats, but he has one section. Now roll for initiative and then combat prep.
Your Royal Majesty, we were expecting you. Vito addresses the king from inside the Dragon Fortress. Luckily, the cockpit hides his shivering. It is my humblest joy to have you among us, great elder, he says in Nosferatu before speaking up louder with faux bravado. Behold and be awed, King of Castilio, the brave steel King of Dragons, Pandora.
You pitiful humanoids. Why must I always be burdened with cleaning up the mess that my incompetent servants cannot handle? I shall waste no time and eradicate you from the annals of history, and your feeble playthings shall crumble to dust in due time.
Rosemi uses her storage sphere to store the skyship into it before she gets on her skybike.
Okay,
20 for initiative.
not enough, but I believe you had a few years to spy on Lave, so I will share his stats. As far as I understand, is there no combat prep?
Activate beetle skin, gazelle feet, and cat's eyes. Staying inside the dragon for the moment. Can't do anything from here, but can't really do anything out there either.
Elio prepares for battle using gazelle feet, hoping to evade his enemy outside the dragon.
Enemy turn.
The larger they are, the harder they fall. Sanguis. Quarta decimae ordo impetus. Dimensio. Apertus. Vaha. Miceum vacuus.
Lave opened the battle with a powerful spell. With a movement of the hand, a distortion appeared from thin air and quickly followed a path directly to the dragon, almost as if a sword were cutting through space itself. With no way to evade nor resist its power, the dragon was hit by the dimensional sword, taking damage to half of its body, leaving openings as panels inside the body blinked red and yellow. 33 for spellcasting of Dimension Sword. 27 for Dragon Willpower, gets full hit. 6, 3, 5, and 6 for 35, 29, 34, and 35, slashing magic damage to body A, wing B, foot A, and foot B. Lave didn't go unscathed from his power performance. As the ceiling of the dome opened with the dragon's appearance, he was hit by the morning sun directly, slowly burning him. Wizard King Lave has 135 HP and 126 MP left. Player's turn.
Rosemi uses her full move to ascend 100 meters to the ceiling of the dragon cave and uses the rest of her movement to close into Lave.
She casts Field of Protection 2 on everyone nearby. Elio, the dragon, Vito, and herself. 18 for spellcasting check. Everyone around her has a +2 resistance to physical and magical damage for 18 rounds.
Elio is surprised by the damage the dragon took, and as he notices Rosemi flying around, he understands that there is not much else he can do against this overwhelming enemy but to help as much as he can. He moves a bit closer to the enemy, still thinking how to approach it without being killed in the process. Then, as he reaches his destination, he looks back at the dragon and strikes some weird poses with a forced smile on his face, hoping his companions are watching but knowing they probably won't understand. He is saying his farewells on Soleil. Then, as he finishes, he takes a breath, recovery, and faces back to the enemy, hoping for the best. End of turn.
He commands Dragon Fortress 2. Move closer 20 meters to shoot with wings machine guns A and B. 25 and 25 for accuracies. Body a volley against Lave. Lave needs 30 or more to evade. Body B main battery. 25 for accuracy. Head sprays a jet of lightning with adaptive jet. 27 for unique skill check.
32, 28, 31, 33 for evasion checks, all miss. 35 for willpower check against adaptive jet.
28 for half the lightning magic damage.
121 HP left. Enemy turn.
I think it time to allow my servants to have fun too. Sanguis. Quarta decimae ordo transitus. Move spatium. Porta.
Suddenly, a portal appears in front of the cave entrance. On the other side, you can see a Blair looking smugly at you, with an army of knights to her side and the king's throne in the background. A portal connected directly to the royal chamber of the Castillo castle. Lave, totally oblivious to your plans, looks at the gates with a smile, not even paying attention to Elio's movement or someone above. 31 for spell check. You need to dispel the gate with 32 on success value, or it will close in 3 rounds. Player's turn.
He notices the lack of interest of the Vampire King. He doesn't care. He thinks for a moment, then gets annoyed at his indifference. He really doesn't care. With a vein popping out, he touches the shoulder of the vampiric bastard, and as he finally looks at him, he says, "Hey, guess what? Cheese!" and flashes Lave directly on the face with his Soleil power. Radiant Physique then moves back 9 meters away, pulling out the puzzling sign and using it directly on Lave. You know, for someone so smart, you got easily discovered by even the most stupid of Titan followers. Someone who doesn't even know how to write his own name. And I'm sure that tells more about you than it does about me. 3 for the puzzling sign effect. 1 turn with -2 accuracy, -2 evasion, -2 on int checks, and -2 on spell checks.
It was at this time when Rosemi had a really dark look on her face. With an ominous smile on her face, she raises her hands up in the air and starts casting a spell. Thee wanted to chuckle at me? Thou art a pig! Rosemi Beemeth! Purr. She speaks in Sylvan as she drops a large magisphere towards Lave's direction. As the magisphere fell, Rosemi said the command words to activate her spell. Take it apart! Rose me! Road roller ga! Rosemi casts Superior Mana Bike on her large magisphere and drops the bike on Lave. 27 for spell check with the Sword's Grace.
27 for evasion. It misses, and the bike takes 300 physical damage from that distance, and the magisphere is destroyed.
Rosemi pulls out her storage sphere this time and unleashes the ship. Ha! You fell for my distraction! 37 for accuracy with the Sword's Grace.
26 for evasion, hits. 300 physical damage minus tumble check minus defense. 26 for tumble check. 300 minus 26 minus 21 is equal to 253 applied damage. Plus 20 bonus from the skyship. 273 applied damage. Wizard King Lave is at minus 161 HP.
Rosemi sits cross-legged on her skybike, pulls out a teacup from the tea she made this morning, and sips it.
The portal remains open for several, which seems to be long seconds, with Blair looking in shock before it closes.
By the fucking gods! Vito's voice can be heard from the dragon's megaphone. I can't believe that worked. His mouth matches Blair's shocked face, but only Nuela can see it.
By seeing, neither did. Damn, Rosemi, you saved our bacon.
Rosemi flies down to look for what little remains of Lave amongst the debris she helped make, but alas, after finding nothing, she walks in front of the gate and points at Blair. That could have been you, Buta! But I, the great genius Rosemi Sama, am also generous. We were once friends, and I am willing to forgive you if you come over and apologize. I will show you more great and fun adventures, more than whatever that lame vampire could ever show to you. Rosemi then extends her hands towards Blair, waiting for her. And if you betray us, well, there's more of where that came from.
Well, with that, you can describe your next plans for your Dragon Fortress and Lave, which will be gone for 1 week. And we can conclude this game.
I see, that depends. Do we level up after this?
For purposes of continuing, no. For just your own sake, yes. 3670 XP plus growth. You can also loot Lave.
10.
Tainted Ashes, 10k. Immortal Cloak, 10k. Ring of the Bright Bride. Vito remembers. The Rite of Dark Candles is a ceremony where Nosferatu and Leonan Sidhe exchange rings. The Ring of the Candle is given to Leonan Sidhe, while the Ring of the Bright Bride is given to Nosferatu, allowing them to rule over Leonan Sidhe. If the Ring of the Bright Bride is destroyed, Leonan Sidhe turns to dust, and there is a tradition of Leonan Sidhe returning to humanoid form if both rings are destroyed in a certain ritual, although no recorded attempts have been made.
Vito lowers the dragon's head onto the pile of ashes and merrily jumps down to loot the temporarily former king. He salivates at the worth of the loot, but comes upon the curious ring. He mutters before his gate imp pokes his shoulder.
Boss, what did you get from him? He's a king, any money.
She showers him with questions and he waves away. He left this cloak. He pockets the ring before anyone sees it and shows off the cloak to everyone. Worth a lot. The ashes, too, should catch us a pretty gamble.
Boy, that's turning into plant fertilizer. And nobody will believe that ash belongs to some vampire wizard king. I'm fertilizing my plants.
It's still high-quality ash. He gestures to the ashes. You don't know the market for this, Missy.
Rosemi contested Vito's declaration for the ashes. I can't even tell this apart from the ashes of Elio's cremated grandmother.
He looks at Elio with genuine surprise. Your Nana's dead?
I mean, probably. I just know my mom and dad, but I have never met my grandparents. By the way, what do we do with this guy's remains? Looking at Lave scattered around. It may come back somehow. It did before at least, so does anyone have a plan on what to do with it? Anyone besides Rosemi?
Bless them and scatter them far and wide, I would recommend.
Rosemi begins to obnoxiously sprinkle some ashes on herself.
Maybe just bury the guy under a rock. He stops and stares at Rosemi silently. Or do that. He points to her.
These really are high-quality ashes. Rosemi exclaims and shows Vito a thumbs up.
Let's just leave this hell of a region. I'd rather not be here when that thing comes back. If it does, he says, disappointed with the result of this adventure in size. If we can't even kill this guy for good, hopefully that just means he won't be a bother for a while.
Well, if he ever comes back, he will have Rosemi PTSD. Just the mere sight of me will send him running with piss on his pants. Rosemi confidently proclaims as she makes her way to the dragon.
Oh, so back to the Dwarven Kingdom then? I guess that would be our best choice here. He nods and hops back onto the Dragon Fortress. We have Pandora, the gallantly brave Steel King of Dragons now. If we can just find a way to end his majesty here permanently.
Vito finds a rock heading his way.
Ow! He's hit and rubs his head. Where do you keep finding those? He mutters.
Actually, I don't think the Dwarven Kingdom would be a good idea, nor any place we came from, as Blair knows we live there, so... Want to leave the continent? I heard some people take ships to another one really far from here, which we could hide for some time. I mean, if you guys want.
We're in a ruins? A cave? Hello?
Rosemi replies before turning off the Dragon Fortress. She hops off it and calls Elio. Hey Himbo, come with me, let's look for a place to hide the Pandora. Rosemi then rides her skybike and parks it beside Elio.
Okay, let's go. But please tell me we are leaving after that, he says as he gets on the bike.
Well, of course, we'll be heading out to look for a way to fix the dragon. Vito responds, still rubbing his head as he misunderstands Elio.
Of course, I gotta get those ashes into my garden. Rosemi revs her bike's engine again, mostly just showing off before taking off to the skies to find a decent place to hide Pandora. Rosemi helps Elio by casting Telescope with another large magisphere of hers.
Telescope allows only the caster to look in, I think.
Well, I have a telescope of my own, but I don't know what distance it can reach, just X5, it says.
Roll 2d6.
8. Ranger doesn't help?
It was just pure luck. You find a big cave far away to hide Dragon Fortress while you are relocating or searching for how to extend its battery life.
Okay then, let's go back and get the others to hide the dragon, he says to Rosemi. We can decide what to do after that. Though I just want to leave, to be honest.
I'm going to be staying. I have to go around the kingdom and throw them off with my holograms. Buy us more time. Also, I will be searching for Seelan, the dragon. I want to see how they're doing. With that, Rosemi brings Elio back to the group, and after helping hide the dragon, she part ways with the group again to do her very own thing, adventuring. She will go around Castillo, spending her time looking for Seelan, the dragon, and throwing off the kingdom with her holograms. She also somehow hopes to come across Blair, possibly to mend their broken friendship. She also scatters the ashes high up in the air, fertilizing every plant life in the vicinity. All this as she leaves the war zone that she helped make. That broken ship would be her mark on this world, and she was proud to have defeated a vampire king with it. Nobody ever expects to meet their end with a ship crashing on them suddenly. Rosemi also never told the group that she was disguised as Victoria. On the side, when she isn't looking for the dragon, she visits towns and villages, mostly selling video footage of her adventures, of course, after having redacted some details to avoid spilling the location of such adventures. And with that, another chapter has ended in Rosemi's story, but this is yet another start of a brand new chapter.
Elio says farewell to Rosemi as he plans to leave the continent to keep his training in other lands far away from the king's revenge plot. Before he does, he asks Nuela and Vito if they want to come with him, as they have been companions for so long that he couldn't think of leaving them behind. He shyly asks Nuela to come with him while assuring Vito that there will surely be treasure where he plans to go. Regardless of their answer, the plan was set, and to Alframe he left. For someday he will come back stronger enough to challenge the king once again. Hopefully.
Nuela blushes at his offer and stammers out, "I do." Then, realizing what she said, she slapped her head and said, "Yes, that would be great. Thank you."
Vito denied Elio's offer. He mentioned something about his pa telling him how a man knows when to follow his heart. With a wave and a hat tip of farewells to his friends, he packs up his equipment and heads on towards Castillo itself with his teary-eyed gate imp, holding a certain ring with him towards his absolute destiny, whatever it may be.
As Vito comes to Castillo, he finds Blair in panic mode, but as she sees the ring in Vito's hands, she is willing to try to find a way to become human again, to become a proper adventurer, and see the world with her savior, Vito.
Wait, bring her to Rosemi.
That's what she gets for prioritizing her audiobook.
She upgraded to video now.
And they never met Rosemi again, the end. Congratulations on the happy ending. Vito, not only do you have demons, but a serial killer wife now.
It's funny to think he started out as a devout church boy.
I think you might meet with Blair after humanization, Rosemi. To have tea.
Man, Vito's family back in La Lumea's gonna have a real wild time when Vito inevitably introduces her to them. Yeah, he's definitely omitting some parts about her background. She worked for the royal court of another region. Yeah, that's good.
Wizard from Castillo, adventurer and former servant of king who should not be named. Pleased to meet you.
As Vito, this is my wife, points at Blair. This is my wife's plant wife, points at Rosemi.
This is my wife and this is my wife's girlfriend. She's a friend.
Wouldn't that be Nuela?
Rosemi is the girlfriend, with the space in the middle.
She can have more than one. It's a free country, LOL.